So, hello students, how are you? So, in the last lecture, we had started with moral thinkers and philosophers. We completed emotional intelligence completely and we entered into the domain of moral thinkers and philosophers, right? So, in that, first we started with Socrates, then Plato, Aristotle and Machiavelli. And I have briefed you about the major or core theme or core philosophy all these individuals are trying to give. See, when we start reading about each philosophy, there is no limit to studying any philosophy or any particular philosopher. But we will try to restrict ourselves for the syllabus or for the examination. Whatever is relevant from a particular philosopher, we will take that. Rest, we will leave. Okay. So, initially I talked about Socrates, Plato and Aristotle because these thinkers, they build your base for the philosophy as well as for understanding ethics in deeper terms or understanding why ethics is actually needed in our life. So, Socrates is the best example for understanding that. Now, these three thinkers, when you study in depth, one thing that you come across is something that we call as cardinal virtues. Okay, we completed Plato, we completed Socrates and Aristotle, but this is one thing I wanted all of you to understand and remember, and this you can utilize in your answers. Okay, so something that they call as cardinal virtues. Now you have understood what do we mean by virtues already, right? These are character traits that we build in ourselves. And if we build these character traits, we are going to reach to the location, to the destination or whatever is our value, we are going to move in that direction. So virtues are always good, as we said. Now when we say cardinal virtues, what do I mean by that? This term cardinal, it means something like hinge. So you must have seen your laptop. This laptop opens, right? When you see it is opening or you are closing it down, it is dependent on that hinge. That one hinge or there are multiple hinges attached to that laptop because of which you are able to move it. So everything depends on those hinges. Similarly, when we say cardinal virtues, they act like hinge. They are hinge virtues or they are the most foundational virtues for any individual. Most foundational. Most foundational means all other virtues that you build in yourself, all those are secondary. They will come in the later stage. Those are not so important as these are. Okay. So, the first information related to cardinal virtue we find in Plato's book, Republic. In his book, he says that a person, if he wants to become ethical person, if he wants to mold himself towards the true knowledge or lead a good life, a very good life, to become really happy in life, then he needs these four cardinal virtues. He has to develop these cardinal virtues in himself and he has to practice them. So the first cardinal virtue which Plato talks about is wisdom. Wisdom, or you can even call it prudence. Now one thing even UPSC is also very interested in, that is what is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. And you should have a brief idea about that. At least you should understand the core difference between being knowledgeable and being a wise person. Not everyone is a wise person. There are so many knowledgeable people, but hardly we find wise people. So what's the difference? Any idea? Although I have already mentioned over here. When we say there is a person who has got knowledge, a person with knowledge, that person has got some kind of facts, information or skills. He has read from a book or maybe through experience he has got to know something. Maybe he has got trained, so he has developed some skills. So if you become a doctor, if you become an engineer, that is something we say you have got knowledge of that particular domain. You have collected facts, information, the skill required. Then you become knowledgeable person. So almost everyone we see nowadays, everyone seems to be a knowledgeable person. The level of knowledge might differ. Someone has done masters, someone has studied hell lot, someone has not. So there can be difference in quantitative terms when it comes to knowledge. But when we say a person is wise person, wise, he has got wisdom. Being wise has nothing to do with the quantity of knowledge that you have gained. There can be a person who has not studied a single book, or rather studied hardly one book or two, but he is wiser than many scholars. When you say a person is wise, he understands human nature, ethics, and the consequences of all his actions. He understands what is the true nature of human being. He understands that whatever action he is doing, what will be the final result of it. And it's not like he will think about the result in his own example only. Let's say he is lying. By lying, he might get benefit of something. He may do some corrupt activities and he may benefit out of it. He will think about the real human nature. Will I be happy by being greedy? Okay, I have greed or I have desire. That's the reason I'm becoming corrupt. That's the reason I'm lying. So first of all, this person knows the real human nature. Is it my nature to become greedy or have such desires? Or my true nature is something else? Even if I got this for now, I have done some activity and I got this desire completed. Will I be happy? He knows that he will not be happy by this material thing. He will not be happy with this thing because for him, there are some values. For everyone, there are some values which are important for any human being. So he will know the true nature, true human nature. A wise person will know this thing. And because he knows true human nature, he understands ethics. He understands why ethics is needed. He understands that if I lie, if I start lying, then there is a possibility other person will also start lying. When entire society will start lying, nobody will trust on each other. Please understand, lying, the phenomena of lying works only because one side trusts on the other person. Even if this person is lying, this lying works because this person at least trusts. If everyone starts lying, no two persons are going to trust each other. And when no two persons are going to trust each other, will lying work? Lying will not work. It is not sustainable. Similarly, if you become greedy, if one person becomes greedy, others will also start becoming greedy. If everyone becomes greedy, please understand the material things, they are limited. Material things are limited. So let's say we have something like, let's say we have this water bottle. We have just 10 water bottles and we have 100 people. So we have to distribute somehow. If one person says, I'm greedy, I'll take it, I'll take all. What will others do? They will also try to take it. If all people become greedy, will the system work? No. It is being said that industrial revolution has led to this climate change phenomena. And industrial revolution took place in few countries, right? Some European countries, they were leading the industrial revolution. Now look at this thing. Gandhiji used to say that if every other country in the world starts following the same path of development which Britain has followed, the same path of development, the same kind of industrial revolution, if they start polluting in the same manner, if they start working in the same manner, what will happen? We will need at least 7 more earths. One earth will not work for us, and we don't have 7 earths actually. So the point is, a wise person understands why ethics is needed. He understands ethics. He understands the consequences of his action. So when we say a person is wise, is having wisdom, he has got knowledge, but that knowledge is very deep. He has very deeper understanding of knowledge. He can apply that knowledge in the real world, and he can theoretically, in theory, he understands the complete picture. He doesn't have knowledge of some things or in pieces. He has that complete knowledge in theoretical terms, and in practical terms, which Aristotle talks about phronesis. A wise person applies the complete knowledge. While taking actions, he will not just think about a particular fact or an information. He will think about this complete picture. Okay. So in case UPSC any times ask you about knowledge or wisdom difference, or let's say they give one statement that whether a person is wise or not, whether wisdom plays any role in the life of a civil servant or not, you should at least know this basic difference. Then only you can write a good answer. Okay. Now you can say a knowledgeable person could be a civil servant. Is civil servant a knowledgeable person? Yes, he has got all the knowledge of civil services. He prepared for the exam, he cleared the exam, he got training in Labasna, whatever knowledge needed, whatever facts, information, skills, whatever is needed, he got it. But if the person is not wise, what will happen? This person will start focusing on nonsense things or not so important things. And rather than focusing on the core or major issues which a civil servant should deal with, he will start focusing on those peripheral issues. So I can just give you a few examples. There are some core issues and there are some peripheral issues which a civil servant can deal. For example, while taking any benefit of a scheme, the civil servant has to ensure that the person complies with the scheme. He has all the documents, all the legal documents. He has to go through all the procedures and documentations. He has to ensure all that. So he has to do that, yes. Or he's concerned about trivial administrative tasks, that this should be done in this manner, process has to be followed, all the file work has to be done, it has to be communicated to the authority. He will be focusing on that part. Or interdepartmental coordination. He has to coordinate with all the departments, he is doing all that thing. Or he is drafting the press release, he has to give information to the media. Please understand, I am not denying the fact that these are important things. A civil servant has to do these things. I am not denying that fact. If he is a knowledgeable person, he will certainly focus on these aspects. But if a civil servant is really wise, he will focus on these things, but he will focus on these things first, or while taking any actions, he will give priority to these core issues. What are the core issues in the society? Patriarchy is a core issue. Gender inequality is a core issue. Health is a core issue. Poverty is a core issue. These are the core issues which are existing in our society. If the vulnerable section of the society, its rights are getting violated, if the vulnerable section is suffering, then the priority in the mind of the civil servant should be to focus on that aspect rather than focusing on these aspects. So while thinking, while writing answers, while even writing answers for the case studies or theoretical questions, keep this in mind, that behave like a wise person and not just a knowledgeable person. Okay, good to go. Now, if you have understood what do we mean by wisdom, okay, wisdom or prudence we can use interchangeably for now in these cardinal virtues. So I'm saying Plato talked about cardinal virtues, even Aristotle talked about it. When we say wisdom or prudence, it is the first cardinal virtue. Plato anyhow is talking about the importance of knowledge, and here when he says knowledge, he actually means wisdom. Okay, he's not talking about just information and all. Now, when we say a person is wise, because he has all these things, when he's taking any decision, he's going to take wise decision. The judgment will be wise. He will consider all the dimensions. He will think about all these dimensions, and he will take the right course of action, the right action which is needed. So he will take the judgment very, very carefully. We can call it involves very careful thought and foresight. When I say foresight, he's thinking about the long-term objective and long-term consequences of his actions. Whatever he is doing today, the consequences will not just be immediate but can be very long term. So a wise person will certainly think about it. Clear? So, for example, if your senior gives you an advice or an order that you have to shoot people who are just protesting, peacefully protesting, you can shoot, you can open fire. Will you do that? Think about it. A wise person will not do that. A wise person will not do this thing, even if he has got order, even written order, let's say. He'll not do that. That's the difference. That's the difference between what we saw in the case of Jallianwala Bagh case, right? Or what we observed in the Germany at the time of Hitler, that many bureaucrats or many police officers of the Hitler's regime, they were easily killing the Jews. They were not using their mind because they were not wise. They were just having the knowledge of their bureaucracy or their police system. So this is something we need to remember. So there is a saying, wisdom lies in knowing what to reckon with and what to overlook, what to focus on and what not to focus on. Wisdom lies in this aspect. You understand that everything is important, but out of all these things are more important. So a wise aspirant would be one who understands that studying is important, preparing every subject is important, but doing PYQs, that is way more important than any of these. Okay, so we can even relate ourselves with this concept of wisdom. Now there is a very good line said by Aristotle. Wisdom is the highest intellectual virtue. You can use this line while writing your answers. Okay, good to go. So we understand the first cardinal virtue, that is wisdom or prudence. Now we'll talk about the second one, the second cardinal virtue. Now here the second cardinal virtue is termed as fortitude. Fortitude, or we can call it courage also, but fortitude is the right word. Now when we say courage or fortitude, we mean that even if there are difficulties, even if there are challenges, you are going to face those challenges. Even if continuously you are getting obstacles, you are not getting success, still you will stick to it. When we say fortitude, it is nothing but courage, but in long term. Courage is something we show in very short term or immediately. In this particular situation, you can become courageous. But when we look at things that are happening in the long term, you are continuously getting some problems, and still you show some moral strength, you show some strength, that is your courage. So facing difficulties and challenges with bravery, resilience in the face of adversity, and there is something called moral courage that comes into picture. Now please understand one thing. Even if you are a very knowledgeable person, or even if you are a very wise person, that means you have got all the knowledge, deep knowledge, you have got all the understanding. All this is a cognitive part. Again, we are trying to get into the psychology of it. All this is the cognitive part. Even if it's a very deep knowledge, you understand ethics, everything you do, it's a cognitive part. But if you do not have courage, entire knowledge becomes useless. Even if you know entire rule of law, let's say a policeman stops you, stops your car, stops your vehicle, let's say a traffic policeman or anyone, and suddenly he says that pay me some amount of money, otherwise I'll seize your vehicle. Now you are a wise person, you know all the laws, you know that he can't stop your car like this, or he can't take money like this, he's doing wrong and all. You have all this cognitive part is there. But the emotional part or the affective part, here you have got fear. Fear about police, fear about system, fear that he will seize your car, fear that he will beat you. All this fear is there. Then what's the use of this knowledge? Even if you have got this knowledge, you're not going to even fight or even argue with this policeman. You won't do anything. My point is, this emotional dimension matters. Here you should not have fear, here you should have courage. So courage is that emotional element that matters for any individual. So when you're developing virtues, you become wise, you develop this part, but you also become courageous. You make this emotional element stronger in you. Okay? And when we say fortitude specifically, we are talking about long-term inner strength, endurance and resilience. Long-term. So for example, we have this example of whistleblower like Snowden. Snowden is a very good example. A person like Snowden, or any person who is observing corruption in his system, in his organization, speaking against it is not that easy. The consequences could be very dangerous. If you are in the civil service also, if you are trying to openly tell any particular scam to other people or to media or whatever, there's an immense pressure on you, even political pressure. So in that case, what you need is courage, or what we call as fortitude. Okay, so there is a saying, prudence decides what to do, courage gives the strength to do it. And it is said that when we talk about moral strength, there is a very good relationship between this morality. Rather than morality, I must use the word, when you develop a very strong character, there is a relationship with courage. What is the relation? When you develop a strong character, you're a person of integrity. Your thoughts, speech, action are aligned. You know your values very well. You have developed virtues. Now, even if there's a situation which is a very dangerous situation, which is putting a lot of pressure on you, internally, because you understand morality, you understand ethics, you know your inner value set. Because of this, to fight with this situation, you will automatically gain some courage. You will automatically gain some courage. That's what we call as moral courage. So Gandhiji used to talk about this moral courage a lot. You look at Gandhiji. You can give example of Gandhiji in a really good manner. Look at his height, look at his weight. He's not even good looking, or his body is not really great as such. But the one person he's standing with this moral courage to fight against anything. Riots are going on in Bengal. No person is ready to go, and this person alone goes to such a place where he might even be killed. Still he goes. That's because of this moral courage. He knows what is right, and to do what is right, he's getting that courage from inside. Okay? So this is your fortitude or courage that we expect you to develop. Other examples are also given over here. You can mention those, Nelson Mandela and all. Those examples can be utilized. Right? Now, third cardinal virtue, that is temperance. The third virtue is temperance or moderation. Temperance or moderation. So here, Plato or Aristotle, when they talk about moderation, they're talking about controlling the desires. They're talking about self-control or self-restraint. What happens is, we have got desires, everyone has got desires, we have temptations. So instead of moving in the direction of that temptation, control yourself, control all your desires. When you control your desires, you can do the right action. It may happen that you're a very wise person, you're a very good person, very wise person. Okay, first thing, you have that knowledge and all. Second, you have courage also. You have got courage, you have that moral strength, everything you have. But there is a problem. If someone gives you some kind of desirous thing, if someone is ready to serve your desires or temptations, you fall for that. You will not use your mind, you will not use your emotions, you will just fall for it. So here the Socratic tradition clearly talks about self-control and self-restraint for those temptations. So here we say temperance is not too much, not too little, just right thing. And this temperance controls the pleasure-seeking part of human nature. Now our nature is of that kind. We want pleasure, continuously we want pleasure. Through the food item you say, through any physical activity you say, somehow we are seeking pleasure. And this part is trying to control this pleasure-seeking part. Today only we will cover Buddhism, Jainism. They will also talk about those desires. That controlling desires is very important. Specifically, Jainism talks about this part in detail. So, controlling desires, without controlling desires, you cannot do what you actually wants to do. There's a possibility that you will get out of this objective or the path in which you are moving, you will get out of it because of that temptation. Okay, so let's say you decided that you want to become a leader. You want to sort out all the problems of the society. You want to lead. You have got knowledge. You got the wisdom. You got all the knowledge, everything. You have courage also. You know how to fight. You know you are going for elections. Now you become prime minister or chief minister something. But because you have temptations and desires, instead of focusing on your core objective, what was your core objective? Social justice. You wanted social justice. You wanted to do something good for the society. Because of temptations, what you will lead to is focusing on power. You'll focus more on power. The temptation of power will actually divert you from your core objective, and you will start fighting with the other opposite parties. You'll focus on that narrative, discourse, rather than focusing on your core objective. So this happens. There's a very good example from this web series called as Game of Thrones. So that lady who wants to rule the entire world, she wants to rule because she wants to change the entire world. She doesn't like the patriarchal rules. She doesn't like the existing rules, the traditional rules. She wants to reform. She wants to remove slavery and all. But once she gains power, there the temptation of power diverts her from her core objective towards power. Do you get this point? So that's the reason we are saying temperance or moderation. This is a cardinal virtue if you really want to become a very virtuous and a very good person and you want to make a good life. The best example in this case would be Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. People call him People's President. There were many presidents, but he is named as People's President. Look at his life. He's a very successful person, a very successful scientist and president of the country. But even if he's so successful, we don't see any kind of arrogance in him. We don't see any temptation for this power that he was holding. Even he was offered the presidential seat second time, but he refused. He was not that fine with it. He did not have that attachment. So this shows he's successful as well as he's having this simplicity, humility. This is where this moderation is coming into picture. And as a civil servant, how you can show moderation? So when you become the civil servant, deputy collector or any role you're getting in the leadership, what will happen is as soon as you reach to a new location in your posting, many people will come to you with so many gifts. If you have this temperance as a virtue developed in you, you're going to refuse those luxury gifts. You don't need that. You know that my needs are already completed. The amount of salary I get, I'm happy with it. I don't need this. Right? So this is a very good example. Please write this directly in the answers. This example or this Dr. Kalam's example, you can mention directly wherever it is possible. In case studies, you're going to use it a lot. Okay? And the fourth cardinal virtue is justice. justice is considered to be very important. Justice is considered to be architectonic principle. It is said that without justice, nothing can actually happen in society. A society cannot exist if there is no justice at all. Now, when we say justice as a virtue, a person has to develop justice as a virtue. What do we mean by that? Now, such a person is going to continuously, constantly think about justice, or what is the share of the other person that he must get. Let's say you took some money from your friend, you borrowed some money. Till the time you give this money back to this person, let's say it takes 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, every day you remind yourself that I have to give this money back to this person because it is his due share. This is the idea of justice. You think about this due share of every person, and you are very firm about it. You will not deviate upon that. Now use this same example to think about entire society. In society there is so much inequality, there are so many problems. You think about the due share each person deserves. Even if in India hardly 5 to 10% people are paying taxes, does that mean only these 5 to 10% people should get the services from the government side? No, you know that other people, the poor section of the society, the middle class, they also deserve to get something out of it. So when you have this constant and firm will to give each individual their share, then that is the idea of justice or virtue of justice that you develop in you. And you treat others in a very fair manner. Very fair manner. You will not be like, I'll treat myself better and others as inferiors. No, you will not do that. Because it is his due share to get the equal amount of respect that you are getting. Getting the point? So justice, very important. We'll discuss justice even when we deal with John Rawls. So there I'll talk about justice in detail. So these are the 4 cardinal virtues that you need to know. You can mention such examples also, like police. When police is treating people, it is their respect, it is their duty to treat everyone in the same manner. Just because a politician has come or politician's son has come, you're not going to treat him differently. That's very important, right? Such examples. This justice equals to fairness, equality, impartiality, rights, protection. And Aristotle says, justice is not giving everyone the same, but giving each their due, what they deserve. So treating unequals unequally. You have to treat unequals unequally. If there is a person, son of a very rich person and a very poor person who has not even got food or shelter also, you will give importance to this person. This person deserves some extra share right now, considering the historical injustices that have taken place, or the luck by chance factor. Fine. So whether it's our progressive taxation or is our reservation system, all these systems are based on the idea of justice. Fine. Any doubt till now? Please ask if you have any doubt. See, in the philosophers sections, why I am talking about cardinal virtues is because this is part of the philosophy, the same philosophy. And why cardinal virtues are important? Because while writing answers, you're going to use them a lot, again and again. Now you have understood, now you can directly utilize this. Even in conclusion, if you're writing any case study or any theoretical question, wherein you have to show the priority of values or virtues, then in the conclusion also you can use this simple line that in the from the works of Plato or Aristotle, we get these cardinal virtues which everyone should adhere to or a civil servant should adhere to. You can mention these virtues, right? Yeah, please ask if you have any doubt, otherwise we will just move ahead. No doubt? Okay, fine. Now the next thing that we need to study is individualism ethics and social ethics. Social ethics, or we also use this term called communitarian ethics. Instead of social ethics, we use this term communitarian. Now, what do we mean by individualism ethics and social ethics? Simply, when you start giving importance to individual, while thinking about ethics, while thinking about what is right and what is right and what is wrong, when you think about actions, when you think about laws, anything, whether this law is correct or not correct, it is morally good law or morally bad law, when you think about this dimension, when your judgment is taking place, here one dimension could be where you give primacy or importance to individual, or other way would be to give importance to your society or your community, or to some extent even your family. When you give importance to this segment, then it builds your social ethics part, and when you're giving importance to this part, it's the individual ethics. Now see, what happens in terms of this individualism? A person supporting individualism ethics, he would say that man is an atomistic man. Man is atomistic. Atomistic means just like atom. You see, everything is made up of atoms, and atom in itself is an independent entity. Atom itself has got its own properties and it's completely independent. It can remain independent. Similarly, man is independent entity. So it's not like it has to depend on society as such. Rather, if you ask a person supporting individualism ethics, what is society? They will simply say, these independent men have come together and a society has been formed. A society has been formed. Society is nothing but many men coming together, living together. Okay. So this is the core idea of individualism ethics. They put individual at the center and think about all the things. So what they will do? They will give priority to autonomy or the self-rule. I will decide what will happen to me. I will take decisions for myself. So let's say you think about following your passion, making a career in the field in which you want to. Now there is a problem. Do you think whatever you want to become, even you wanted to become civil servant, is it your own thought, your individual thought, or is it your society's or your family's thought? The society built up your value system in such a way that you found becoming civil servant as more prestigious. Why do you need prestige? Because you want society to think good about you. So think about this dimension, whether it was really your decision. Okay. A person supporting individualism, he will think about autonomous decision making. A person should decide what will happen to him, not the society. So if there is any rule wherein society is deciding something about you, a person from this, a supporter of this ethics will not support that. He will call it immoral action. The moral action will be one where I decide everything. There is self-rule. First thing. Second, I'll think about self-interest. Now, thinking about self-interest doesn't mean I'm becoming selfish. There is a difference. I am thinking about self-interest because I was born alone. I know myself. I know what I want. So I will do what I need. To become happy, whatever is needed to be done, I'll do that. But here, I'm not saying that while focusing on self-interest, I'm not going to harm others. As soon as I harm others, that will not be acceptable in this society, obviously. So think about self-interest, but not while harming others. Without harming others, if I'm thinking about self-interest, that should not be a problematic stuff. So you think about our fundamental rights. Okay, any of your fundamental rights, when you think about it, they are in self-interest. They are in self-interest without harming others. Then it will give importance to self-ownership and self-reliance. So the people will say, see, we are born alone. I have my own body. I have rule over my own body. So I'll decide what happens with it. My own body, my own mind, my own labor, I own it. You don't own it, I own it. So you don't have any right to do change it or influence it. I'll do what I want to. So this is self-ownership. And they say we don't want to depend much on the community. We don't want to. Then such people will give importance to meritocracy and personal responsibility. It's very simple. If I study, I top in the exam, I'll get recognition, I'll get all the benefits. So there's personal responsibility. If I don't prepare, I'll fail. So again, I'm taking the responsibility. So for any action that I'm taking, I have to take the personal responsibility. Individualism ethics will do this thing. So they'll give importance to freedom, liberty, etc. The thinkers like Socrates and Immanuel Kant, they somewhere belong to this tradition. Okay, you might be thinking it's a very negative thing. Think about Socrates, how he was thinking. Socrates is giving importance to individual morality. He's asking every individual to self-introspect in life. Think about yourself. Self-introspect. Find out what are the problems in your life. Get the clarity. When you get the clarity, you go on the right path. You go on the right path and then you become happy. Right? So overall, he is looking at this dimension. For that, he is suggesting that if you go with this, that will be an ethical path. You'll be a very valued or very virtuous kind of a person. So he's talking about individualism. He is supporting this individualistic idea. But there is one more dimension in it. That is something we call as social ethics. We'll discuss Immanuel Kant in detail just after some time. Now, when we say social ethics, the supporters of social ethics, they look at the world in a very different manner. First of all, there's a statement called man is a social animal. Right? This is said by Aristotle that man is a social animal. You can't survive alone. It's not possible for you to survive alone. They will do one thing. You think you're so important. We'll put you on an island where there is nobody. Can you really survive? Can you really survive? Think about this dimension, that man cannot live alone. Most importantly, the man in himself, he is not a self-sufficient entity. If he wants to survive, he needs the physical support of others, emotional support of others, psychological support of others. He needs all that. So because of that, the supporters of social ethics, they always give importance to community or society. Even if I talk about Aristotle, his ideas are very interesting. If you ask him, what came first? Individual came first or society came first? Just like whether the hen came the first or the egg. Logically, he says, when I think logically or simply when we try to understand it, it seems like individual comes first and society comes later. But he says the reality is society comes first and individual comes later. He says that individual cannot even survive without society. You need society. So society is logically formed. After that, you are able to live your life. So people supporting social ethics, they focus on common good. They say whatever action you are taking, whether it's a morally good action or not, that depends on whether this action helps or benefits entire society. If you're doing something and that benefits entire society, then whatever action you're doing is a morally good action. Now here you see the difference between individualism ethics and social ethics. Individual ethics is just focusing on this person himself. Let's say this person is singing a song and he's enjoying his life. But here, he's doing it at his home. It is not helping the entire society. So social ethics will not give much importance to that part, whereas individual ethics will give. So what will be considered as good thing? If you're focusing on common good, those people who are paying taxes, the tax is getting redistributed among everyone, or through that tax, let's say government is building, let's say government hospitals. Now these government hospitals are accessible to everyone. Everyone can use this hospital. So this is something they will say a good thing. Or let's say some social security benefits, this Ayushman Bharat scheme or Manrega scheme, all these things which are coming up. This will be considered good thing by social ethics. They will recognize interdependence. Now this is very important. You remember this term when we say interdependence. That's the core idea of social ethics, that individual and society, they have a very strong relationship of interdependence. Every individual in the society depends on every other individual. If you remove some of them, the society cannot work. There is interdependence among people. That's why you can't have individuals without society. So this is very, very important, because nobody is self-sufficient, and we can see that thing. We can see that thing because now in the urban societies, hardly we find someone is completely self-sufficient. You might be having money, but you need other people for getting all the work done. They focus on community responsibility also. So communities come together to help you. Society comes into picture to help you if you are in problem, if any individual is in problem. So this is how social ethics builds up. Now, many philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, even Gandhiji is having similar kind of thought, that is of social ethics. Now see, this individualism ethics, its philosophical roots lie in liberalism, existentialism, objectivism. If you want, you can read these things in detail, but we'll not waste our time in this right now because we have to look at many other philosophies. Similarly, social ethics, philosophical roots in utilitarianism, communitarianism, social contract theory given by Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, even Rawls to some extent, and then religious theories, Christian ethics you say, Buddhist ethics you say, everywhere you will find this social ethics. They will give importance to the community more than the individual. Okay, and this remains their point of judgment when they are deciding an action is right or wrong. Some people will think from this dimension, or some people will think from this dimension. Now, as a civil servant, or when you are writing answers, what you should keep in mind, think about this part. If we are thinking about just individual person, something that is good for one individual person, now that could be good for the society, or that could not be good for the society. Let's say he is doing something that may lead to something good for entire society. This person is thinking about only himself and he started a business. Okay, entrepreneurship. He started a business. Now, is it good for the society? Yes, it is good for the society. Or this person is interested in some scientific innovation. He did something, he invented something. Is it helpful for entire society? Yes. So here, good of individual is equal to good of society. This is visible in this first case. Good of individual is equal to good of society. Wherein there could be another case wherein he is doing something which is very selfish. Let's say he is doing corruption, an individual is doing corruption. Now, how corruption will impact entire society? Because the amount of money, let's say a government servant who is holding this amount of money, it was supposed to be sent to 10 different people or some poor people in some or the other form. But because he was corrupt, he has taken all that money with himself. He has kept money with himself. So here there is impact, a bad impact on the society, and this bond is not there. You understand this part? Now here we just thought about good of one individual. Now you think about good of entire society. You take some actions which are good for entire society. Actions which are good for entire society. For example, you go for universal education, universal healthcare, government launched Ayushman Bharat. Or let's say government launches universal education, let's say maybe after a few years government launches a scheme wherein they say free university education to every individual in India. Whether you are poor, whether you are rich, doesn't matter. Everyone can take. Think about it. Or government had come up with this COVID-19 vaccine related scheme that government was paying for it. Anyone can go and take the vaccine. Think about such actions which are good for entire society. You see, automatically this equation gets formed. Good of society is always equal to good of individual in most of the cases. Okay, in most of the cases. Whereas good of individual, if it goes in this dimension, it's not good. But if it is in this direction, it is good. No problem. So when we talk about interdependence also, we have to, those people who talk about interdependence from social ethics dimension, they just think about this part. Okay. Those who think about individualism, they can think about these two dimensions. And as a civil servant, you should focus on this first part and this part. You should go with both. Obviously, you should not go with this, but this one part and this one part, you should support that. So for us, you look at India's constitution. Our constitution has fundamental rights which are important for the good of individual. We have got DPSP also, which are important for good of entire society too. Both are important for us. Fine. Please make such diagrams in the answers. Your answers will really look good. Okay. I hope you understood individualism and social ethics. So if you have any doubts, please ask. I'll give you 1 minute break. Think about it and please ask if you have any doubt. Okay. Now let's move ahead with some other Western philosophers. Once we complete them, then we'll head to the Indian philosophers. Now see, we have someone called Hobbes, Thomas Hobbes. He's a English philosopher from Britain. Now, the core theory of Hobbes lies in his theory of social contract. Now, if you want to understand how he thinks specifically. So, he's a person, he was born during a revolution which was going on in Britain. We call it Puritan Revolution. Now, this revolution was not so good as such. There was civil war going on, so much fights, or the situation was something that we call as of anarchy. Anarchy means everyone is fighting with every other person. You can't trust anyone, nobody. There's no government who has got complete power. See, when there is a civil war, can you imagine? If let's say, in a hypothetical situation, there's a civil war in Pakistan. Half of the country is not supporting the government. Half of the country is supporting the government. There are 2 different governments or 3 different governments, whatever. There is a situation of chaos, complete chaos. Such an anarchical condition was there when he was born. And when he writes, he starts his writing with one line. He says, I and fear were born together. I and fear were born together. So he's actually a writer. You know, he's good at literature. So when Hobbes is mentioning his theory, he talks about something called as state of nature. Now, to understand his theory, we need to know state of nature, the concept of state of nature. What do we mean by state of nature? It's a hypothetical condition. Think about it. When the society was not even formed, think about that situation when there was no society, no government, no law, nothing. Think about that time. Hypothetically, if you think about it, how would you see that situation? No government, nothing as such. In that case, Hobbes says the situation must be anarchical situation. It must be anarchical situation. So he writes, the state of nature is state of war of all against all. Anarchy. Everyone is doing what they want to do. Anyone may come to you, snatch your food, may kill you, do whatever with you. He says when there was no government, no society, no formations, every individual must have fought for himself, just like an animal. It would have been a state of war of all against all. Everyone is having war with every other human being. Such a situation, such an anarchical situation must have existed. He calls this condition as his state of nature. And he says that when such a situation must have existed, the life of man was nasty, poor, brutish and short. The life of man was not at all good. Anyone would come and kill you. How can you expect a good life? Right? So, he's saying this is not a good state. Even he says, you think about freedom, art, literature, poetry, all these things. Such things cannot flourish in a society where you don't even have the basic security of life. So think about the situation in Afghanistan when USA withdrew, US forces withdrew, how people were trying to move away from Afghanistan. Think about the situation in Syria, or think about the situation right now in Gaza. Anyone is coming, killing. The situation is not good. Just imagine a situation of anarchy where there is no government to protect you, no society to protect you, nobody is there. Such a situation will be of this kind. Can you expect art, literature, all these things to prosper in such situation? No, you'll think about your life, security. To live, to be secure, you will fight with others. You will also be ready with guns or whatever you have. Such a situation is of state of nature. And Hobbes says, because life was of this kind, to bring the security, all individuals must have come together and they formed a commonwealth. They said that we are not interested in freedom. When there is anarchy, do you have freedom? What do you think? When there is anarchy in this society, do you have freedom? Yes, we have freedom. Rather, everyone has got complete, absolute freedom. That's a problem. In an anarchical society, everyone has got absolute freedom. You can do whatever you want to. And that's a problematic stuff, because now people will do whatever they want to. So anyone will kill anyone. So such a situation is there in anarchy. But to get some sense of security, all the people must have come together. They must have formed a commonwealth or a government, or what we call as state entity, or you can even call a society of a kind. Here the state is given the power of law and order, maintaining law and order. Please understand, here people have surrendered their freedom to this sovereign entity. They surrendered. They said, we don't want this freedom. You take away our freedom, but give us security. Security comes first before anything. When you think about freedom, this dimension is very important while writing case study answers. You should have good clarity on this part. When you think about freedom, there are so many freedoms. Even our fundamental right talks about so many freedoms. But the first and foremost freedom that needs to exist is freedom of life, where our basic security becomes important. So when this terrorist attack took place in Pahalgam, that was the first freedom that got affected. And state's first responsibility is to secure your life. Rest of the freedoms come way later on. If you survive, then you will get other freedoms. Your survival is must. So here Hobbes is saying people must have surrendered to form this commonwealth, and people have gone for a contract. Every member of the society, they have gone for a contract. He calls it a social contract. Through this social contract, we formed a commonwealth. This commonwealth is nothing but your state, and this state is given absolute powers. We have surrendered our freedom to this state so that state can give us security. Okay? So that's how he looks at the importance of law, importance of state. He gives absolute importance of state, that without state you cannot exist. Now think about the social ethics dimension also to some extent. Here we can deal with that part, that without society you can't exist. Similarly, without state or without law, without rule of law, you can't exist. Right? Existence will be under danger. And this state which is formed, this state has been given power, absolute power. Why power is needed with the state? Because state has to ensure law and order. If you don't give him power, what's the use of it? Without power, the state will do nothing. He says, covenants without sword are nothing but words, and no strength to secure man at all. What it simply means, covenants means the treaties or the agreement, the social contract. Or here in this case, the state, if the state is not having any power, how can it secure my life? It cannot. So state has to be given power. Okay. Now he's saying, because state of nature was so bad, we people came together, made this social contract and formed this idea of state. We made this state. State means here, think about law. We made this state, we made this constitution, we made this law, we made this government. Now because we made it, it was us who gave consent for it. Now there is a moral obligation on us to follow the law. So if someone asks, why should I follow the law? This is the reason why you should follow the law. There is a moral political obligation on you, because you decided, you have given your consent to make this particular law, to go for this social contract. As soon as you go out of this social contract, or everyone goes out of it, again there will be anarchical situation. This is what Thomas Hobbes is trying to tell everyone. Now how his theory becomes important for us for the exam or overall as a civil servant. First of all, he's saying ethics emerges from law and state authority. So you can understand, we made law. We knew that without law what would have happened. So whatever law is doing, that is a good thing for you. That is for your survival. So for him, ethics is coming from law. First thing. So here you're using law as a tool to bring ethics. It's a good thing. Even you can remember, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar or Raja Ram Mohan Roy, they have also tried to do some ethical activity using law. They brought law, or they tried to make use of law to bring ethics in the society. Same thing Hobbes is trying to say. Then, order and stability are necessary preconditions for moral life. Think about the state of nature again. If there is no order in the society, what will happen? The condition will be of state of nature, everyone fighting against each other. Can you imagine any kind of morality, any kind of ethics in such a society? No. Everyone is going to fight against each other. There won't be any ethics, nothing at all. So for ethics to survive or exist, Hobbes is saying you need law or some moral order in the society. You can again imagine the situation in Gaza. Look at the situation, whatever is happening, a war-torn region. You can't expect morality and ethics in such a region. You can't expect. If people have not eaten anything since last 5 days, the condition is very bad, they will even eat other human being now. So you can't think about that dimension in a normal manner. And then individual security comes before any kind of liberty, any kind of justice. He's saying security is the first and foremost thing. We'll think about justice, we'll think about all those things later on. Now think about this dimension, the same line, and think about the situation which we were facing during lockdown. You can use this example too. During lockdown, what was happening? The decision of going for lockdown, that was against our fundamental rights. Article 19, you see. freedom of moving out, freedom of movement. We have that, but government was completely restricting that fundamental right. Going for lockdown, going for providing vaccine, making it compulsory, all these decisions are against freedom. Many people did not like that. How can you make vaccine compulsory? We will not take vaccine. Government made that. Why? They didn't care about your freedom. Is it that? Yes, they didn't care about your freedom. Why? Because out of all the freedoms, providing the basic security is the most important and most necessary precondition even for this state. So even for you, if there is a chaotic situation in your district, let's say any kind of riot going on, any chaotic situation is building up, in that case, maybe sometimes you have to take decisions wherein you are trying to curb freedom of many people. You go for curfew, you go for such actions, but those actions are justified, morally justified, because you are trying to bring security. If there is security, then rest of the things will be possible. You can give example of Manipur. Okay, can you see any good thing in Manipur without security? Basic order is needed. So in the case studies also, if such a situation is given regarding any chaotic situation, there don't have this preconceived notion that how can I talk about any harsh action, that I'll take harsh action. You have to take sometimes some harsh actions if the situation demands. See your intent. What is your intent? To bring security. Okay. So think about this dimension, especially in case studies. So he's justifying rule of law. He's justifying something very important, strong institutions. So when he talks about state, he's talking about institutions and strict enforcement of laws to ensure discipline. Okay, you can make the things like this. Public safety is more important than individual freedom. The best example is this vaccination. Public safety was more important than individual freedom. That's what even government was saying at that time. Right? So that's how you can use it. Done? Hobbes is done. Good philosopher to use. There's one more thing about Hobbes that we call as theory of psychological egoism. Because Hobbes thinks that state of nature is of that kind. Hobbes says everyone in this world is selfish. Everyone in this world is selfish. And here he is saying being selfish is nothing wrong at all. Again, think about why he's thinking that way. Because of this idea of state of nature. He's saying that in an anarchical situation, if you imagine, people will have to think about self. They can't be like very good to others. Anyone will come and kill you. Anyone will take your food away. So you will have to think about yourself. He's saying there's nothing wrong in being selfish because everyone knows about his or her pleasure or pain. Everyone knows about that. And there's nothing wrong in thinking about our own pleasure. So people asked him, sir, then what about those people who do some kind of charity, some good things, those altruistic people? Altruist. Hobbes says even they are selfish. How they are selfish? They get happiness by doing this charity. When they are helping others, they are getting some kind of pleasure. Now the pleasure could be of different kind. He is saying this person is also getting pleasure by helping others, by doing this charity, by doing some good thing. Because he is getting happiness. That's why he is selfish over here. And he's saying being selfish is not wrong as such. Okay? This is called as psychological egoism. He's saying your psychology is of that kind. You are selfish. Done? That's all about Thomas Hobbes. Please ask if you have any doubt. So moving ahead, we have Rousseau. Not so important, but just one idea of Rousseau seems very good, which you can try to utilize in your answers somewhere. Now, Rousseau is very famous. You must have read about Rousseau when you have studied world history. So in world history, there is a chapter called French Revolution, right? So Rousseau is considered as the father of French Revolution. So you must have heard about these terminologies like equality, fraternity, liberty. These terms actually came from Rousseau. Now Rousseau is very interesting, and when we even talk about Gandhiji is very much influenced by Rousseau. Rousseau seems to be the first person who actually talks against modernity. Or he rather criticizes modernity. So very interesting thinker, very interesting philosopher. Rousseau says, we have made our civilization, we think a lot, we make use of brain, we brought culture, civilization, so many things. But this is wrong. He's saying the civilization is making a human being corrupt. If you see the real human being, he was very good. Society made this human being a corrupt person. So Rousseau talks about the essential human nature. He says, how is the human nature? When we talked about Hobbes, what did he say? Human nature is selfish, right? Everyone is selfish. This person is saying human nature is made up of self-love plus empathy for others. Rousseau is saying every human being in reality is made in such a way, or if you look at his real nature, he loves himself. He definitely loves himself. And also he loves others, or he rather has empathy for others. He understands the mental state of others. He has that capability. That's the real human nature. And he says that we were like this earlier. If you ask about the state of nature to Rousseau, Rousseau will say, in the state of nature, humans were really good. Humans were in the state of bliss and perfect happiness. Because see, I love myself and I have empathy for others. So I live a very happy life. There is no problem. There is no tension. There are no desires. There is no, I don't have any stress in my life. Life was really good, he says. What happened then? What happened is civilization came into picture. Thinking part came into picture. We started thinking a lot. Just think about this situation before social media. Before social media came into picture, before this YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all these things. What we were doing and now what we are doing. Now we are continuously into our smartphones. We are not meeting people. We are just showcasing our image in the social media, which is a fake image altogether. Right? And we're building relations on social media which are also fake. In reality, we could have built real relations. We could have social gatherings, but that is not happening. We are rather becoming very isolated. We are trying to create our fake image in the market or in the society. So here, you think about the situation before smartphones, before internet. This life was very happy, very chill. We were interacting with society. Nowadays, the cases of depression are increasing. Nowadays, we need more psychologists than any other doctors. Why? So, this is just one example. I'm trying to hypothetically connect with Rousseau. What Rousseau says, in the civilization, how civilization came into picture. Because human beings started giving importance to reason or rationality. He says, when we started giving importance to rationality, we started thinking a lot. And when we think, the problem is we don't get satisfied at all. We think about something, we want that now. We think about something else, we want that now. We keep on building our desires. When we keep on building our desires, this is a never-ending process. So when you look at modern civilization, this modern civilization is full of desires, materialistic desires, so many things. And in this struggle to achieve that, the point is, because we are using reason, Now we are trying to achieve that. To achieve, we are continuously struggling. So there's a fight of struggle, there's competition, all these things are going on. He says, this is the problematic stuff. Because of this, you have lost your real nature altogether. Many people, just for this sake, they don't remain the real them. They don't remain with these simple things called self-love and empathy or sympathy for others. That's a very problematic thing. Okay, he's talking about sympathy, not empathy. So you can feel for others, not the exact mental stage, but you can understand the pain of others. Now, Rousseau said modern civilization is problematic, very problematic. He doesn't like modern civilization. Okay, and even today when we talk about these issues like climate change, this pollution, all these problems, these are because of modern civilization. Earlier it was not there, right? So somewhere we feel that maybe Rousseau was right. Maybe Rousseau was right. Now, Rousseau says, now we have two options. One is we can go back to that earlier condition. We can go back to that earlier condition, the state of nature kind of condition. Or we can reform the system. Going back to the system is not a practical idea. So rather what we should do is, we should reform our present system. The present modern civilization, we need to make some reformation in that. So he says, what we need is a social contract. What we needed is a social contract. What we need. He says, in reality, he said the real nature involved self-love plus sympathy, right? So what we need to do is, you ask every single person, what is his will? What does he really want? When you take his will, you will find out self-love and sympathy involved in that. Just get a mixture or sum of all these wills, and then you will make the general will. Okay, it is possible that someone, when he is talking about his will, what does he want? There might be few things which are greedy or which are desirous, but desirous or greedy things will be in conflict with others. So he is saying, remove that conflicting stuff. Just talk about anything that you desire by these two dimensions. So anything that you desire by these two dimensions, we will bring that. Everyone's such a will. So it is called as real will. And we will make a sum of all this real will, which will be called as general will. So you can understand this thing with a simple thing of a constituent assembly. Many people came, many leaders came together. Everyone talked about what he wanted, right? Everyone talked about his real will. Actually, they talked about their actual will, but there were some negative things in that. So we didn't take it in the constitution. Whatever they talked, which involves their self-interest, self-love, and the sympathy for others, we have taken all that, and that we call as our general will or our constitution right now. He says, this is the thing that we really need. This is the thing that we need. So if we have a constitution of this kind, then we can lead a very good life. We can lead the life of our true nature. Okay. So he's a person who supports the idea of direct democracy. Everyone's will is important. He's giving importance to individual. You see, Rousseau is giving importance to individual and forming a social order. And he also talks about moral freedom. Normally, when we talk about freedom, we think that if there are no restraints by the government, that is freedom, right? If government is not putting any restriction on us, that is freedom. He says, no, that's not the only kind of freedom. Rather, when we say freedom, freedom is about self-rule. When I can make law which I want. And here I'm not being very selfish. I'm just love myself, and also I have some empathy for others. When I have this thought in mind, then I'll ask for some rule, some law for myself. So there must be some people who want a particular law. Okay, let's say there's a tribal community in a particular region in India. They want a particular law for themselves, which is not harming any other person's right. Okay, they'll think about that dimension, whether we are harming others or not. If it is not harming, what's the problem? They will feel good if this law is present. So it is a law which is made by them. He says a human's complete development is possible when there is this self-rule and this moral freedom is there. Okay, so just try to utilize his ideas somewhere in the answers, because some good content we get for just enrichment purpose. Okay, even in essays you can utilize Rousseau. Fine. Now next is the Utilitarianism by Jeremy Bentham and J.S. Mill. This you must know. Now just understand briefly what do we mean by this utilitarianism. See, theory of utilitarianism is just a part of your teleology, or what we call as consequentialism. So we think about the consequence, we think about the outcome. A theory which belongs to this category of teleology, it thinks about outcome. It will decide what is right and what is wrong based on the outcome. If outcome is right, then the action is right. So what is the consequence? When you think about consequence, it is the consequentialism. Now, when we say utilitarianism, here we are talking about utility. If something has utility for most of the people, then it's a good thing. This is what Jeremy Bentham says. He says that everyone gets pleasure or pain from something. You know, if you get something, maybe you'll get some pleasure or you'll get some pain. Now, everyone will try to do what? Everyone wants that his pleasure should increase and pain should be reduced. So if there is a poor person, if you give him some health service, what will happen? His pain will be reduced. Or if you give him something, let's say in the form of cash, let's say you give him some money, if you give him some job, his pleasure might increase, his pain might be reduced. Similarly, for a person belonging to the rich class, if you give him some kind of services, he will be very happy. So everyone wants more pleasure and lesser pain. That's the basic thing. So that's why this person, Jeremy Bentham, he suggests that what we should go for is maximum happiness of maximum people or maximum numbers. When government is making any policy, see, it's not possible for government to make a policy which is going to make happy to every single person. It is possible that 80% of the people will be happy with it and 20% not happy with it. It is possible. Jeremy Bentham is saying if such a policy is there, it's a very good policy, it's a morally upright policy where maximum happiness of maximum people is getting ensured. Now, this is the thought process of utilitarianism. They're looking at the utility of this action. If there is more utility, we should go for it. It's a morally right action. Okay. So, for example, when we talk about pleasure, we're taking any action, we are increasing the pleasure of everyone. Here, when the government is taking action, he supports this dimension. And here he simply says that pleasure is very much quantitative. That means every pleasure is of same kind. Every pleasure is of same kind. You read poetry or you eat some food, you're getting the same kind of pleasure. This activity is also giving pleasure, this activity is also giving you pleasure. If you play cricket or you play this push pin or something, you're getting same kind of pleasure. For Bentham, pleasure is just quantitative thing. In quantity, in numbers, either you can get more pleasure or you can get less pleasure. It's just about the quantity. This is what Bentham thinks. Okay. When we talk about utilitarianism, first person who comes into our mind is Bentham, who talks about pleasure, increasing pleasure which is quantitative, And he says we should have policy, or we should do things wherein we can maximize the pleasure of maximum people. Is this clear? Now, on surface level, superfluous level, it seems he's right. But when you are taking actions which are good for 80%, what about the 20%? What about the 20%? So, whatever actions you will do, you'll never think about 20% then. You'll just think about this majority. And you are talking about pleasure, that too only in quantitative terms. So, here when J.S. Mill came into picture, this person, J.S. Mill, John Stuart Mill, he said, pleasure is not just about quantity, it is also about quality. He's not denying that it is about quantity, but he's saying there is a qualitative difference involved. When you talk about pleasure or happiness, some pleasures are different. Some pleasures are lower pleasures. Some pleasures are higher pleasures. You can't compare them like this. You can't say all are of same type. So when we talk about these physical pleasures, for example, you want to eat something. From eating, you're getting pleasure. You're getting entertainment. You're watching something like there. You're getting some pleasure. But compare this pleasure with you're reading a book. A philosophical text, the kind of pleasure you're getting. You're into some romantic relationship. From there, you're getting some pleasure. That's a different pleasure altogether. When your mother is doing something for you, she's getting pleasure. Can you compare the same pleasure with the food you're eating, that pleasure? Can you compare that? So here, when it comes to intellectual and moral pleasure, he says these intellectual and moral pleasures are higher and these physical pleasures are lower. There's a difference in the quality of pleasure is what J.S. Mill thinks. Clear? Now, what J.S. Mill did, first of all, he changed the theory of utilitarianism, which was given by Jeremy Bentham. The problem with the theory of Jeremy Bentham was, it was very much majoritarian. As we said, he's talking about maximum happiness of maximum numbers, maximum people. So he's suggesting that government should come up with policies which are majoritarian in nature, which give happiness to maximum people. Then think about the minority group. What will happen with them? Their freedom doesn't matter, their rights doesn't matter. So there will be tyranny of majority. Majority will do whatever they want to. This is what J.S. Mill doesn't like. Here J.S. Mill is going to change the philosophy given by Bentham. Here many people were calling Bentham's philosophy as Pig's philosophy. He says, rather give importance to the minority view also. Now what he says is, let's say there is freedom of speech and expression. That should not only be majority, that should also be with minority. And we will listen to even minority. He considers that maybe if there are 100 people, 99 people are supporting something and one person is not supporting something. J.S. Mill will say, listen to this person. Who knows? Maybe this one person knows the right thing. Maybe he is right, 99 people are wrong. And he's looking at this dimension not because he is a supporter of minority. He is looking at this dimension from utility perspective. He says, let's say there's a pandemic. People are saying, don't wear mask, nothing will happen. Only one person is saying wear mask in the initial stage. And if you don't listen to this person, what will happen? Everyone will die. Everyone will die. He's saying, look at the utility. Maybe this one person might be right. He must be having the truth with him. And this truth is going to help everyone. There will be utility for everyone. That's the reason, give importance to freedom of speech of this person too. So this is the idea set by J.S. Mill. He supports this unpopular opinion a lot. He supports that stuff. And as far as freedom is concerned, he talks about something called as harm principle. It's the same principle that we apply in our fundamental rights. that how much freedom should a person have? He says a person should have absolute freedom minus, or we can call except to harm others. That means as long as I'm not harming others, I should be having complete freedom to do whatever. I should have freedom to speak, freedom to move, freedom to do whatever. I'm not harming others. So he suggests public policies in this direction, where his harm principle is used. While writing answers, make use of this harm principle. Okay. Mention about J.S. Mill's harm principle can be utilized in this particular situation. Okay. So this is how J.S. Mill will be important for us. Good thinker. Any doubt on Mill? Because now we'll head towards Immanuel Kant, a very important thinker, very important philosopher. Okay. So no doubts, fine. Let's move ahead with Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant is considered to be the thinker of enlightenment. So you see, most of the thinkers that we have studied, most of them, when we talk about Plato, Aristotle and all, they are thinkers from the ancient world. Now think about the medieval times when philosophy was actually not working at all. Philosophy got submerged under the religious texts. So religious texts, religious theories, they were dominating. That's why even this medieval age is something we call as dark age, right? Because religious texts were not focusing much on the reasoning. They were not ready with accepting what your reasoning, your thoughts, your mind says. Rather, whatever is written in the text, that was supposed to be accepted as a fact. Now, the modernity actually started with the phase of enlightenment. And here we have a thinker of enlightenment, whose name is Immanuel Kant. The phase of enlightenment shows the importance which is given back to rationality, to reasoning part. Now when you ask Immanuel Kant, what do you think about humans? Kant says every human being is a rational being. Everyone is rational. You think about any human being. He says everyone has got this mind, everyone has got the reasoning, everyone is rational enough to think about himself, think about the basic things. He is capable of that because everyone is human being. So as a human being, we have this ability to think logically. This is very interesting. He's not talking about intellectuals. He's talking about every individual human being. He's saying every individual human being, because we are human beings, we are capable of thinking in a logical manner. And when we think in a logical manner, we can understand what is right and what is wrong. We can understand that I have a particular right. You can't make me a slave. Just think about slavery here. He says that everyone has got logical mind which can think about slavery and understand that slavery is a wrong thing. You think about human rights, even human rights, actually they derive from the theories of Immanuel Kant only. When you talk about human rights, what do you say? These are the basic fundamental rights that every human being deserves to get because they are human beings. We deserve to get. If someone is torturing you, that's not a good thing. You understand that it is not a good thing because you have got logical mind. So simply in one line, in the words of Immanuel Kant, every person is a rational person. Every person can think about his freedom, happiness, etc. We are capable of that. Okay. So because everyone are capable of thinking, we can think about ethics or morality. Why ethics is needed, why morality is needed, we all can understand that part. And what kind of ethical rules should be there. Now, initially, if you remember in the first lecture, we talked about an idea of absolute ethics and relative ethics, right? Ethical absolutism and ethical relativism. When we talked about absolutism, we said that there should be some moral principles, some moral rules, or there should be all the moral rules which are applicable everywhere at every point of time. It's not like in my society we will not accept it. It's not like in ancient time we'll accept it and in modern times we'll not accept it. No. Moral rules or ethics is absolute, absolutely applicable, universally applicable to every place at every point of time. Such absolutism was being discussed there. Now, such absolutism you will see in the works of Immanuel Kant. One important thing in his works that we find is his 3 categorical imperatives. Categorical imperative. Now, what do we mean by this? It's very simple, although it seems very technical. It's very simple. When we say imperative, imperative means a kind of command, a directive. I have given you a command. Society has given a command. The God has given me some command. So imperative is a command, a directive that you must do this. When we say command, what do we mean by that? That you ought to do this. You're supposed to do this. So that's what we call as ethics. Ethics always talks about what you ought to do. So he's talking about a particular command, what you ought to do, imperative. And that too he's talking about categorical imperative. When he says categorical, that means it applies universally without any exception. Without any exception, that means he's talking about that absolutism. It is universally applicable everywhere. You go into any society. For example, killing someone. If you ask Kant, he'll say it is wrong means wrong means wrong. You go to any society in the world, you go to any other planet, you go to ancient time, anywhere, killing is wrong means killing is wrong. That's it. So here, when we say categorical imperative, Kant is talking about some directives, or Kant is talking about ethics or ethical principles, or when he says that the moral laws which are applicable universally. He says that moral law is universally applicable without even a single exception. That is applicable. Why this? Because we are very rational human beings, are very rational. We are capable of reasoning, capable of thinking. We can think about what is freedom for us. We can think about the happiness. When everyone is having that capability, then you go to American society or Indian society, it doesn't matter. Moral law should be the same. Every human being is capable of understanding that killing someone is wrong, here or there or at any other location, or at any time, ancient, medieval, modern, at any time. So here Kant says there cannot be any exception, because we all are same, we all are human beings having rationality. Rationality means we can think, we can use reason, we can make moral choices. We can do this thing. We are capable. Second, we have our own free will. We have freedom. We can freely think about what is good for us. So humans are capable of choosing what is right over what is wrong. We are capable. We have that free will also. We will always choose what is right. Third, there is a moral agency. Humans are responsible for their actions. We know that we are responsible for our actions. And then there is autonomy also. Humans can govern themselves ethically. We govern through different mechanisms, through society, through state. So overall, his argument is moral law cannot be relativist. It is absolute, it is universal. Mostly we can use this term, universal. Okay. Now when you ask Kant, he gives total 3 principles. when he talks about the categorical imperative. He gives 3 principles, and we must know these 3 principles very clearly. The first principle is talking about the universal moral law. So here in his language, if we read, act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. Now, if you don't understand his language, in simple terms I can say, when you are following any law, how the moral law is built, or how this ethics, when we are saying moral law, that means talking about ethics. Ethics is nothing but a kind of rule. He's saying follow only that rule, accept only that rule which if applied to you, applied to any other being at the same time, then that person or you will accept it. Means you should be okay if this rule which is applied on you, if there is a rule, if that rule is applied on you or anyone, if it is applied on you, you will be happy if it is applied on everyone. If it is applied on everyone, you should be happy with it. So act according to that maxim. Maxim means that rule or that moral law, whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. It should be applicable to everyone. So if you kill someone and government is saying that we will put you in jail, or we will hang you, we will give you this life punishment or something, whatever, capital punishment. And if you think that, see, if someone kills me, now what you're doing is you're trying to think about other persons. If any one of the society, he kills me, he should be given capital punishment. Now what you will think? Okay, then if I kill someone, then I should also be given this punishment. So this is the idea of universal moral law. Okay, an action is morally right if it can be consistently applied as a universal law for everyone. If there is an action which is applicable to everyone, then it is universally applicable, universally acceptable. And you can understand this as a part of ethics, which I've given again and again. If everyone starts lying, when we are saying lying is wrong, in the moral law, ethics, in moral law or in ethics, as per ethics, when we are saying lying is wrong. Why? Because when everyone is lying, there won't be any trust. Lying will not work at all, right? Or when you take a bribe, corruption, if you think about this dimension, if every individual starts taking bribe, every civil servant takes bribe, everyone takes bribe, what will happen? There won't be any governance. Everyone will just take money and do nothing. What will happen with the governance? The governance system will collapse. System will collapse altogether. And this happens. You will see such examples in the international relations at many countries where there is heavy corruption. Something or the other will happen for sure. Some regime change or something. Definitely that is going to happen. So this is how he looks at the categorical imperative number 1. Then secondly, he talks about human dignity. Treating individuals as end in themselves rather than means to achieve some kind of end. Very interesting, very important. Now the same line will be used by Gandhiji many times. He's saying, when you're looking at human beings, treat them as end and not means. He's saying, treat human beings, treat everyone as end and not means. So if you want to understand this part, think about how exploitation takes place in many corporate offices, many companies. There are many videos on YouTube available about Byju's or any other companies, wherein people directly claim that we are exploited very badly. We are used like an object. We are used like objects. Kant is saying we are not objects. How are you even trying to use us like objects? When you're using us like objects, then you're considering us as means. And your end purpose is to make profit. For the profit, you're doing this. Or if I talk about slavery, what was happening in terms of slavery? Human beings were just being looked at as a means to serve some purpose, some end result. They wanted some work to be done. For that, these slaves were being hired or taken up. So you're looking at human beings like object. You're just using them like means. Kant will say that every human being has his dignity, human dignity. Everyone's dignity has to be respected. You can't go against that human dignity. Every human being is equal. So treating individuals as end in themselves and not merely as means, because we are human beings. Everyone is human being. Everyone has got some intrinsic value, intrinsic worth. Everyone has got this dignity which should be respected. So if there is a rule, if there is a law, if there is an ethical rule in any society, if there is any ethical rule which considers human beings as means to serve some other end purpose, then that is not ethics. That is not acceptable. So look at the idea of Kant. You think about any wrong practice in the society which was once considered as an ethical thing. Think about sati. Think about sati. Think about any practice. At a point of time, it might look like it's an ethical thing. But Immanuel Kant will, how Immanuel Kant is judging whether this action is morally right or wrong, based on this dimension of human dignity, means and ends. Human beings should be treated as end in themselves, not as means. If they are being treated as means, then it is not ethical, it is not moral. Clear? Clear? How to understand ethics, he is teaching you through this one single sentence. Here also we understood how to decide if a rule should be considered as part of ethics or not. If it is acceptable to you, and if you think that it should be universally applicable, then it is ethics. Then it is ethics. Here, if it is respecting human dignity, humans are being treated as end in themselves, not as means, then it is ethics. Right? Third, he talks about kingdom of ends. Okay, just a second. Kingdom of ends. Here he says, every individual is rational. Everyone be part of lawmaking. So as he initially said, we all have this reasoning mind. We all can think. We all know what is happiness for us and freedom for us. So we can think. Then whenever you are making a law, let us participate. We have got the rationality. We can understand what is good for us. Then let us become part of the lawmaking. So he supports this idea of lawmaking wherein everyone is participating. So some kind of democratic idea he is suggesting. So he is saying when ethics is being made, even instead of law, think about ethics. When ethics is being made, it should be participative. Everyone should be part of it. Okay, think about this dimension. Here when we are saying kingdom of ends, what do we mean by this? In real world, what happens? People lie, people cheat, people manipulate. But in kingdom of ends, everyone always acts morally. Everyone always acts morally. Why? Because when you make everyone part of the law making, what law they are going to make, which is acceptable to everyone. So when it is acceptable to everyone, they will also accept it for themselves, and this universal law will act on everyone. Okay, so here everyone will act morally. Or people often use others for their personal gain. For example, the slavery system, right? Here it will not happen. No one is going to use others as means to serve their purpose or end. So overall, this is how Kant is trying to help you understand overall ethics through his categorical imperative. Okay, at least if not anything, try to remember this part, this one line. Try to remember this human dignity part, means and ends part, which he has discussed. At least that one single line, that human beings should not be treated as means, to serve some purpose, as rather they should be treated as ends in themselves. If you even remember this line, it will be very useful in the writing answers. Okay, even in previous year papers, they had directly given this line and asked you to write on it. Direct same line. Okay. So we completed a very good thinker called Immanuel Kant. Now, if you have any doubts, please ask. Again, 1 minute break and we'll continue. Yeah, we have this previous year question. In 2014, they had asked about the same thing, about, the same theory given by Immanuel Kant, one of his categorical imperative. Human beings should always be treated as ends in themselves and never as means. Explain the meaning and significance of this statement. Okay, let me write. Okay, it is here. Explain the meaning, first thing, and the significance, second thing, of this statement, giving its implications, third thing. In the modern techno-economic society, meaning you can tell what is the meaning of this statement. Now you understand very clearly, so you can tell the meaning. You can tell the significance also. So to show significance, you have to give some examples, or you have to show how, if it is not there, what will happen. You can show that. And third, they are asking implications in the modern techno-economic society. They are just mentioned a technical term, nothing, but they are talking about the modern society. Modern society where some technological dimension, if you can bring in, some economic dimension if you can bring in, and there if you can show how, if we are using technology in which we are treating people as means to serve some end. If you can tell that dimension. So here, see, this is something you need to just brainstorm, think about examples. That's what. If you think about the examples, you will come up with those arguments here. So I'll tell you. Initially, because you have to just explain the meaning and significance, so the canvas is going to be very much open for you how you want to write. Initially, you might write like this. In our interactions with others, a fundamental principle arises that every individual deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. Or you can talk about Immanuel Kant directly, that Kant captured this idea in his second categorical imperative, and you can mention that part very clearly. Okay, such a good diagram can also be made. I suggest you to make such diagrams in the answers, like when you treat human beings as means, what will happen? You are going to dehumanize them. Dehumanization will take place. When this happens, exploitation will happen. Because of exploitation, people are going to lose their dignity, and result is there won't be any trust among people. Okay, people are not going to trust this other body or other system or people. So this social cohesion is going to break down. You can write down even this thing, that social cohesion will break down. So this is how you can mention. And if humans are treated as end in themselves, what will happen? People will feel empowered. There will be empowerment. There will be respect for autonomy. There will be recognition of their dignity. And overall, the trust will be built. Social cohesion will take place. Social cohesion, there will be strength in the social cohesion. This is how you can build this diagram. This is not something very difficult. You can make such diagrams on your own if your thought process is very clear on this part. Okay. Then when we are talking about its implications in modern techno-economic society, then you talk about many things. For example, I mentioned here Cambridge Analytica case. So there what they were doing, they were using the data related to human beings to serve some other purpose. They wanted maybe some more views, they wanted to change the result of elections, manipulate this voting behavior, all that. That is one good example to mention. Or people are trying to make use of artificial intelligence, right, against people. They're trying to use people as means. Or many companies who are now looking at this gig economy model. In gig economy, they are exploiting these people, those who are working in Swiggy, Zomato, Uber, etc. So the people are getting exploited. They are being looked at as means. This is happening. So such good examples just you have to mention over here, and that's how you can end that part. Okay. So one PYQ we have discussed here. If any doubt is there on Kant, please ask, or else we are moving ahead. Now the next thinker or philosopher we have is John Rawls. And John Rawls simply talks about idea of justice. Specifically, he gives the importance to the procedural justice, but we'll understand what is idea of justice and this procedural and substantive justice. Now first thing, it is said that justice is the first virtue of the social system. Just like truth is the first virtue of what we call as knowledge system or the system of thought. See, if you want knowledge, what you need to develop in you is the idea of moving towards truth. When you always look at truth, when you always seek truth, automatically you are going to get knowledge. So here knowledge for you might be value, and seeking truth is your virtue. If this virtue exists in you, if you always seek truth, automatically you will get the knowledge, right? So for any system of thought, for any knowledge system, truth is the first virtue. If you don't have this truth as a virtue in you, you are not going to get knowledge of any system of thought. You are not going to understand, right? Similarly, if you are looking at any social system, or any social institution, if you are looking at any social system or any institution, social institution specifically, I am talking about social institution. For example, marriage is a social institution, or how societies are organized. If you see whatever work is going on, that entire social system, when we talk about it, the first virtue of that social system is justice. If there is no idea or virtue of justice, this social system will not exist. Let's say if people think that marriage is against justice, there won't be any marriage in the society. There won't be any marriage in the society for sure. So justice is the first virtue of the social system, is what we say, or even Rawls argues with that point. So justice is an architectonic principle. Now when we say justice, this justice could be of two types. One is procedural justice, other one is substantive justice. Procedural and substantial. When we say procedural, in procedural we are focusing on the procedure. That means if we follow a fair process, a just process, in the process itself we were following the idea of justice, then it's a procedural justice. How can we say this idea, how we can talk about this idea? Let's say we are starting a race among 10 people. What we will do is, we will put all the 10 people at the same position, here, at the same position, and they have to reach at this location. So you see the process that we are following, exactly at the same moment everyone will go, everyone has been given same kind of shoes. So the process is very fair, it is just. We did not make any discrimination while following this process. Okay. So when we talk about procedural justice, fair process or rules are applied in a very equal manner. Rules are very equal, there is no discrimination, nobody is given any extra advantage as such. So look at our legal system. Mostly our legal system follows procedural justice, right? When the trials take place, everyone is given equal opportunity, and we call it, it's a justice, no problem with it. Now when we talk about another idea that is called as substantive justice, Here we don't focus on the procedure, rather on the outcome. Do you think the result that is coming, is it showing the idea of justice or not? Is it showing the idea of justice or not? Now let's go back to the same example wherein we said that we will go for race among 10 people, and we said that in this line we are putting everyone at the same location. You gave the same kind of shoes, you started the race at the same time, everything was same, equally you were treating. But see, naturally everyone is not same over here. Let's say out of these 10 people, 3 are physically handicapped. 3 are physically handicapped. Then let's say 2 are children and rest are adults. Do you think everyone is equal? No. So the outcome that you're going to get, we know that someone among these adults, he is going to win because of the natural capabilities he has or the natural advantage that he has. Are you getting this point? Or let's say we are going for a competition wherein we are checking the knowledge. Someone has been given education already, other one has not got education. Or if we get the example of our reservation system, why we introduced reservation, is it showing the idea of justice or not? Think about this now. If I talk about procedural justice, are we following procedural justice when we are giving reservation to just few communities? No, procedurally it doesn't seem like we are, because we are treating people unequally. We are not treating everyone equally. So reservation doesn't show procedural justice, but reservation is given to bring substantive justice. Historically, there was a community which was treated very badly. There was some injustice done with this community, and that's the reason this community is not in a position to compete today. So to compensate for that historical injustice, we have come up with a reservation so that we can bring everyone on equal point. So if we start that same race again for those 10 people, what you will do is, some person will start from here, some person will start from here, some person will start from here, someone will start from here, and now you will ask them to run. Now you will see the result. Okay, so substantive justice, when we say, we focus on fair outcomes and try to correct the inequality that is already existing. So when we talk about redistributing our wealth, we are talking about substantive justice. So we want fair result at the end. The outcome should be really fair, not the process. You follow the fair process or don't follow, doesn't matter. Outcome should be fair. That is expected here. For example, about this T20 matches, it is being said that, many people say that T20 matches, cricket matches, they are good for batsmen, not for the bowlers. Because bowlers are not going to enjoy it much, considering that they can't show their real performance over here. Whereas the batsman is going to show their real performance. Although this is not the right example to put here, I've just taken it just for the sake of explanation. Okay, I hope you got procedural justice and substantive justice completely. Okay, now Rawls is more or less interested in procedural justice. Okay, Rawls says that bringing substantive justice is not possible. It's very difficult. But we can bring procedural justice, and a very good acceptable kind of procedural justice we can bring in. Now what Rawls says, if we all as a society, we all want to make some rules. Okay, we all want to make some rules. We all are interested now. Now Rawls says, if everyone is given an opportunity to tell what kind of rules should be made, what will happen? Everyone will think about his or her benefit. His or her benefit. So let's say if someone belongs to upper class, if you ask them, should there be reservation or should there not be reservation, he will say no to reservation. A person from upper class will say no to reservation. If you ask him about the progressive taxation system, you understand progressive taxation, right? Wherein we increase the quantity or number of tax with your with the amount of money that you earn. If you are earning more, there will be more tax. If you are earning less, there will be less tax bracket. So progressive tax, how is it? Upper class person will say, no, this is not a good thing. He will not like it. Ask the same question to a person who is coming from the lower or very poor background. He will support the idea of reservation. He will support the idea of progressive taxation. So Rawls is saying everyone will think about his or her benefit, because he knows from which class he comes, from which religion he comes, from which social institution or whatever we call it. Like for example, whether you are male or female, right? Whenever we are making laws, males will think about their benefit, females will think about their benefit. So Rawls says if we have to make these moral laws, if we have to think about the idea of justice in the society, first of all, we have to take people's identities out. People know their identity and they will think about their identity. They will think about what is going to be beneficial for them. So what we will do is, we will send people in the original position. Original position. And we will send them behind wheel of ignorance. Now what does this mean? So he's saying, just hypothetically think that you do not belong to any community as such, you don't know. We will take you in a hypothetical situation and just think that you go back to original position where there's a wheel of ignorance. In this ignorance, because of ignorance, you don't know about your identity. Whether you are a male or female, you don't know. Whether you are poor or rich, you don't know. Whether you belong to upper caste or lower caste, you don't know. Okay. In this wheel of ignorance, in this original position, now we will ask you, what should be justice? What should be the rules or what should be the law? Now we will ask you, what should be the law? Okay. Now we'll ask you whether there should be reservation or there should not be reservation. Rawls says, if we ask people in present conditions where they know about their identity, they will think about their benefit. But if you take them to original position, they can think about the real idea of justice. Okay. Now if you ask them whether reservation should be there or not, they will say yes, it should be there. Because who knows? Maybe because they don't know whether they are part of untouchables, the lower class or the upper class, they don't know. If they are part of lower class, they'll certainly say yes for it. Now here Rawls says what people will do in this situation. First of all, people will give importance to liberty. That too, equal liberty, maximum equal liberty. Everyone wants to benefit from their talent. Rawls says that everyone will say that if I have got some talent, I should get benefit for that talent. And everyone who has got some talent, if he is doing effort also, he should get benefit of that. Second, Rawls says everyone will give importance to equality of opportunity. That means if I have the opportunity to make use of my talent, then every other person should be given that. Right? Thirdly, he says difference principle should be there. Difference principle in which he says that there should be some benefit given to the least advantaged section. That means you will talk about some kind of reservation also. You will support that idea. So the same person who belongs to the upper caste right now, if he is put in the original position, he will support the idea of reservation because he doesn't know his identity. He'll think that maybe if I am the disadvantaged one, then at least I should have something. I should have some social system, some welfare system, some reservation system to at least help me survive, because otherwise I will not even survive, I will die. So that's how Rawls suggests, although it is also being debated a lot, but this is the idea of justice Rawls suggests. Now what you can think about is this original position and wheel of ignorance. You can use this when you think about any moral principle, moral idea, if you are in a condition of dilemma, if you are looking at any controversial thing, right, homosexuality or anything that is a bit controversial in society and you have to give your view, you can think about it through this wheel of ignorance, okay, or you can give argument using this original position thing, okay, clear? Rawls is done. Any doubt on Rawls? Now the next one is Carol Gilligan. Now this thinker is going to be very helpful while writing answers, that's why I put her name. Carol Gilligan gives the feminist idea in ethics. She says that when you talk about justice, justice in itself is a very masculinist concept. It's a very masculinist concept. If you take the feminist view, women's view, they will not think about justice, they'll think more about the care. They'll think about care. Now here you can think about this dimension. When you're thinking about ethics or morality, you rather give more importance to justice or you give more importance to the care. You have done something wrong. You go to your father, what the father will do? He will do exactly the same what you have done there. Okay, if you have hit someone, your father is going to hit with 2x, 3x, right? 2 times or 3 times. Your condition will not be good. So the idea of justice somewhere seems to be having the idea of punishment in it. Whereas if you look at the idea of care, it is very different. You go to mother and tell that I have done this. What she will do? She will forgive you. She will forgive you. So when you look at idea of ethics and idea of justice and idea of care, justice focuses on individual, whereas care focuses on human connectedness, the self-sacrifice you need to make, the obligations that are required. It will focus on that dimension. Look at your mother and look at your father to understand justice and care. How she looks at things looks at the connectedness that is there. Here emotions are involved. Here there are no emotions. In justice there is only rationality. Only rationality. In care, emotions are involved. Now because here rationality is involved, reason is given more priority, more superiority. In case of ethics of care, now we use this term called ethics of care. Here emotions are given importance. Okay, so think about this dimension. We look at justice in a way wherein, let's say, a student has scored good, we will give him some reward. If someone has scored bad, we will not give him any reward as such. Now in the ethics of care, we will not think about that meritocracy and all. Those who are doing good, okay, but those who are doing bad, the teacher is going to offer some additional support to this student who is struggling hell lot. That is the idea of care we are talking about. So when we are building the ethics or morality of society, do we want justice to dominate or care to dominate? Think about this dimension. Even if you have watched this series, again, I'm giving you the same example. The series called Game of Thrones. At the end, what happens? Look at that dimension. The lady who wanted to become the queen of the entire world, she becomes the queen somehow. She was more or less focusing on justice. This is for sure, she was focusing on justice, right? On the other hand, the lead actor, he's trying to show the idea of care, compassion. He says in that movie also, in that series, there is this dialogue. Do we want a society which is based on compassion or not? So think about this. Do you want a society where justice prevails or compassion prevails, mercy prevails, human connectedness prevails? If you ask me personally, I would say this is way superior. Ethics of care is way superior than the ethics of justice. And it is way sustainable too. Right? This was all about Carol Gilligan. Now one more philosopher, although not very important, but in case there is a question related to happiness, related to pleasure, because UPSC focuses on this dimension of happiness. Although when we studied Socrates, we have dealt with this idea of happiness. So here just you will get one idea related to pleasure part and happiness part in Epicureanism. Now he's a Greek philosopher, Epicurean, talked about the happiness. He says we should pursue happiness. Okay, that's the ultimate good, happiness. Now here, what is important for you is to understand difference in the pleasure. There's something called simple pleasure, something called moderate pleasure, something called intense pleasure, and see and understand the difference between these pleasures. For example, you're walking in the park. It's a pleasure, you feel good. It's a simple one. You're having a cup of coffee. That's a simple pleasure. You're listening to a calm music. That's simple pleasure. Okay, this is one kind of pleasure that you can get. Then look at moderate level pleasure. Instead of having tea at your home on your own, now you're having a tea or a meal with your friends. Don't you think that pleasure is different? It's not simple pleasure now, it's a moderate one. Here the way you enjoy is very different. Your friends are there. Okay, here the dimension of society is coming into picture. Human connectedness part is coming into picture. Now this was very much individualistic. Although we are not saying it is wrong. We are not saying anything is wrong, we are not saying. But see the difference in the pleasure. Again, you are attending any local community event, any marriage, any event that is taking place. You meet all your families, relatives, friends. That's a different feeling altogether. You're engaging any favorite hobby. You have a hobby, you're getting into that. So these are examples of moderate pleasures. And then there is something called intense pleasure. In less time you get more pleasure, very extreme. Sometimes it goes to extreme. For example, people go for skydiving or any extreme kind of sport. Do they get pleasure? Yes. That's a different pleasure altogether. But that's very extreme. Attending any exclusive events, very exclusive kind of events, the clubs and all. Tasting fine wines and spirits, that's a very good pleasure for many. Again, that's an intense pleasure that you're going to get. Now, when we ask this Epicurean, he says that you should seek long-term moderate pleasure because this is very short-term. Okay, rather you should go for this moderate pleasure, that too for long-term. You will be very, very happy for long-term. And there are many studies even nowadays coming up wherein it is very clearly shown. The society where people are very individualistic. See, this part, this one or this one. People become very much individualistic over here. Okay, they're enjoying. This is like this, for me it seems like American society, right? But when I look at this moderate pleasure part, where you have a social life and you are enjoying the stuff, and if it is very sustaining also, long term when you get such a life, your life is very happy. Okay, so Epicureanism simply talks about this moderate pleasure. Seek the long-term moderate pleasure. Seek the peace of mind which will be there. Okay, good. Just utilize this in case there is a question related to happiness, wherever you can utilize it. Okay, done? Good with it? Now we'll enter into the domain of this Indian philosophies part. Now, one of the philosophies specifically that comes from Bhagavad Gita is doctrine of karma. Although you people know about doctrine of karma, everyone talks about karma, not even Indians. Many people from other countries, they talk about karma. But we'll understand what do we mean by karma. We'll not get into any of the religious belief, but the idea of karma itself, why, how it can be understood as much rationally as possible. Okay, till that, before that, if you have any doubt on Epicureanism or Gilligan, please ask. Yeah, please ask any doubt on this. So when we talk about doctrine of karma, now it is very common in Indian philosophy, in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, everywhere they'll be talking about karma. Now what do we mean by it? Karma simply talks about, karma means it's talking about your actions. Now these actions, here we are talking about the consequence of the action. If you do something good, then the result will also be good. If you do something bad, then the consequence will also be bad. Now it's not necessary that immediately you're going to get this result. It is possible you did something good. Immediately you did not get any result right now. But after a point of time, you will definitely get something good because of that activity. You might not realize at that point of time when you're doing that action, but later on you'll realize that something good happened to you because of that good deed. Or if you do something bad, maybe immediately nothing bad happened to you, but after a point of time, something bad is going to happen. And here, one more thing, these things are going to happen independently. What do I mean by this? It's not like pap or punya, you did one pap, you did other punya and it will be equal, it will be zero. No, it's not going to happen like that. You did something good, for that you will get something good. You did something bad, for that something bad will happen. That's the theory of karma in simple terms. That it is going to talk about the moral cause and effect. For example, I give this example many a times. When we talk about China, Chinese keep on giving final warning. They say, this is our final warning, we will do this. This is our final warning, we'll do this. They keep on giving final warning so many times. So people come to know that this is a bluff. This is not a warning altogether, this is a bluff. So nowadays, nobody takes Chinese warning so seriously as such. So understand one thing, whatever you do right now, that will have some consequence. Maybe when Chinese initially gave this final warning, it worked out for them. It gave them some positive results, that the other person or other country got threatened the way they wanted. But what happened when they did this again and again? After a point of time, people understood that this is going nowhere. Don't worry about it. So, to show this, an industrialist pollutes rivers so that he can cut the cost. You know, cost cutting is very common in corporates. So to cut the cost, whatever this polluting stuff is there, they're directly putting it in the rivers. They're not filtering it out, or they're not treating this pollutants as such. They did something wrong. Okay, they did bad thing. See the immediate result. Immediate result is good. Their cost cutting is done. They spent less amount of money and they were earning more. But after some time, people in that area, because when this pollution level increased a lot, what happened? People in that area started protesting. When people started protesting, many media people came, they took an image, they started posting on social media and all, and this incident led to the damaging of the brand image of this company. Brand image. And because of which, suddenly the sales of this company dropped down very badly. So see how You did something bad and something bad happened to you. This is what karma theory talks about in simple terms. Again, if we take something good example, a whistleblower exposes corruption despite the threats in the organization. He did something good. What happened immediately with him? He was fired from the organization. Something bad happened. But see what is happening in long term with him. First of all, he wanted that system should reform. So did system reform? Yes, because of his action, system reform. Second, he has got this pride in himself, or we call it moral pride. He is feeling very happy that I did something really good. Although he lost a job for that moment. But anyway, you'll get some other job. But he is feeling that pride that I did something right. He feels that. So he's very happy with it. Long-term happiness, can you see that? So when you do good actions, you will get good results. You do bad actions, something bad will certainly happen. And this is happening with a very, very much cause and effect way. There is a cause because of which there you see effect. And as I said, both are independent of each other. So let's say you're doing corruption as well as you're doing charity. Look at this person who is doing something bad also and something good also. So it's not like because he did something good, his bad deeds will be gone out. No. For charity, he will get something good. People will start liking him, people will promote him. Something good will certainly happen to him. But because he did corruption, now he's going to get punished for that also at one point of time in life for sure. This is the core idea of doctrine of karma, that it's this morality of action, or the moral consequences of actions are going to happen, that too in a very independent manner, whatever you do. Clear? Basic idea of karma theory or doctrine of karma. Now, some thinkers you can utilize in answers, like Swami Vivekananda, very good example you can utilize in answers, specifically when you are talking about public service and all. One thing Swami Vivekananda talks about, he says, you see, the world is like that curly tail of a dog. There's a saying that the curly tail of dog, you can't straighten this curly tail. It's going to stay curly, let it stay curly. Vivekananda is trying to say the world is like this dog's curly tail. If you try to change the world, this world is not going to change. The world is imperfect and it is going to stay imperfect. You cannot bring the idea of perfection in the society altogether. If you try to change this world, try to make it perfect, you will fail for sure. Either you will fail, or after failing, you will complain that nothing can happen in this society. He's saying this by describing the nature of this world, that it is imperfect and it is going to stay imperfect. So don't try to change this entire world, and don't worry about this thing that I'm not able to change this world. Rather, Vivekananda suggests that you focus inward, focus on yourself. How you focus yourself? Try to make a calm mind, bring a calm mind who can make good judgments. If you are very calm, you can take right judgments because that emotional impulse will not be there. So a calm judgment can be made. Develop sympathy, develop this love for self, for others also. This is what he suggests, and he says through this you can actually change the world. If you directly try to change the world, it will not change. And let it remain imperfect. When you love this world, you will be okay with this idea of imperfection. When you love, you will be okay with it. Now, one more thing he suggests. There's something called karma yoga. See, there are different yogic practices for the liberation, which you study in the Vedanta philosophy. So one is called Jnana Yoga. So you go through the path of knowledge. Through knowledge, you will get the wisdom and you will get the liberation. There is Bhakti Yoga. You follow the path of devotion. You surrender to the Almighty. You surrender yourself. right? That is one way. Then you have this Raj Yoga, path of meditation. Through meditation, you liberate yourself. And this Karma Yoga means here you are talking about actions. Or it's the same thing as that of virtue ethics, where you liberate yourself through virtues, through actions, by doing right actions. Just do right actions and everything will be sorted out in life. So he is talking about self. Work on yourself, make yourself a good human being and do actions. Here specifically he talks about selfless actions. He talks about selfless actions that you need to do. And he says that through the selfless actions, you can actually change the world. How? See this thing. If you want to check the global problems, what are the problems in the world? He will look at this thing. Let's say you have corruption in the system. So you change the moral value system of people. Start from yourself. You change the moral values, you teach the moral values early to the people. In their future life, they won't be corrupt. Similarly, you say there is intolerance in the system, in people. So teach again this universal brotherhood to people. Bring the value of brotherhood, fraternity, and people will start tolerating. If you say there is injustice in the society, teach compassion, empathy, fairness. He's saying focus on yourself, bring values in you, and you teach others the same thing. That's it. Through education, the problems of the world will be sorted out. Okay. So that's how he looks at this process, and he says, continue this process till the time you achieve the goal. Which dimension he is talking about? First of all, he's talking about your action, which is completely selfless. You're not thinking about yourself at all. Okay. You go to this education part, develop values, develop virtues, do the right actions and continue. Arise, awake and stop not until the goal is achieved. Okay. So just continue this part. Use these things in the answers. That will be very helpful to you. And he says that if you follow these things, especially these three things, any man can become great, any nation can become great. Which are these three? Conviction of the powers of goodness. When you're doing right action, you should have the conviction that this rightness or this goodness is eventually going to bring something good result. You should first have the conviction. You should be completely clear about it. That the actions that I'm doing, it is definitely bring some good results. Even if, let's say, if I take the example of British versus Gandhiji, what I observe in Gandhiji is the conviction in his methods. He was being non-violent. Others are using weapons against him. He is being non-violent. He was having that conviction that my methods are going to bring good results later on, for sure. Do you understand? So he's saying, Swami Vivekananda saying, conviction of the powers of the goodness. You should have the confidence, you should have the courage that the action that you are doing is going to bring good results. Even this line, Satyameva Jayate, it says the same thing, that truth always prevails. The truth is always going to win. If there's a fight between truth and the false things, or any wrong thing, or any malified thing, you go for this fight, even if the fight goes for long, even for years, at the end, truth is going to win. No matter what. Maybe for some time, the false things. Nowadays, you can connect this with the misinformation campaigns that are going on because of the media or malified intents of media, misinformation campaigns that are taking place. So for that also, you can say, you show the truth and people will accept truth. One day truth will definitely win. So you should first have the conviction in the power of this goodness. This is required in you as a human being or you as a nation. Second, there should be absence of jealousy and suspicion. You should not be jealous with others and you should not be having any suspicion. You have to third help all who are trying to be or trying to do well. So just like you, others are also who want to become good, who want to do something really good. It is your responsibility to help them. Maybe they're a bit weak. You take some stand, you take some action to help them. If your society focuses on these three dimensions, your society is going to become great. Okay. And as far as action is concerned, he says one thing: service of Jiva is worship of Shiva. That shows some compassionate dimension. He's talking about the idea of seva or service. Service, that too we call the selfless service. Now understand, this is the same thing which is expected from civil servants. Civil servants are expected to have the spirit of service. Spirit of service in them. Idea of selfless service, that I'll do it, I want to do it, I want to serve people. When you have this intent, you will definitely do good for the others as well as for yourself. So this is one of the core values expected in civil servants. Even Mahatma Gandhi says this thing: the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Lose yourself in the service of others. Do service for others and you will find yourself. You will find the meaning in your life. Your life will become meaningful. You will be really happy, content, and fulfilled, or you call satisfied in life. This you can get if you serve others. You can get one kind of pleasure by, doing something which can give you pleasure. But this kind of pleasure, this is going to bring the real happiness, the true sense of happiness in you. You become content with yourself. There's a meaning in your life. And it's very important. You see, there's one thing called success. And there's something called bringing meaning in your life. Okay. If you compare, this meaningful life is way better than a successful life. Remember this part. Meaningful life is way better. Okay. So that's all from Swami Vivekananda. This is a very good value addition material that can be utilized in the answers again. There will be many questions where this can be utilized very easily. Okay. I suggest you people to go through some PYQs, then you will get an idea how you can use all this content directly. This is for value addition. Okay. Now, next we'll head towards Jainism, then Buddhism, then Gandhiji. Okay. Yeah. With Gandhiji we will end. We'll do two previous year questions also. Oh, sorry, one PYQ, one we already did. One I'll show you from this dimension when we will use the thoughts of Gandhiji. Okay. Okay, we'll take one break, no problem. So just 1 minute break and just we will continue. Okay, so let's move ahead with the Jainism. The philosophy of Jainism mostly comes from Mahavir. So I mentioned Mahavir, but okay, doesn't matter. So Mahavir, who is the 24th Tirthankar, and he's given his philosophy. Mostly you people read about this part in your history part, ancient history, art and culture and all. So we will not get into that part. What is relevant for the exam, for the ethics part, something you need to understand about the idea of desires or idea of attachment that Jainism specifically focuses on. This dimension you can utilize in your answers. Now see what Jainism specifically says. There's something called delusion. There's something called delusion. Delusion means we have some kind of beliefs, and these beliefs are false beliefs. False beliefs. They are not reality. Reality is way different, but still we have got some false beliefs, and this is something we call delusion. So for example, you might be having this feeling that yesterday I had a fight with my let's say colleague, or let's say my neighbor, and now you might be thinking that maybe this person is planning to kill me, maybe this person is trying to do this with me. Now the reality is very different. This person is not even planning this thing, but you are still getting this thought in your mind. It's a completely false belief. Or some people even have this thought that I think I am reincarnation of some kind of god or a king in my earlier lives. I was a king or something. I am the reincarnation of Ashoka or something. Some people have this belief in their mind. Now in Jainism, they call it something as delusion, and we live in the world of delusion. We live in the world of delusion. Now because of delusion, what is there in our life is misery. Now one thing Jainism as well as Buddhism very clearly accept, that the world is full of sorrow or full of misery. They clearly say this thing, that you have to accept this fact that the world or the life is full of sorrow, full of misery. That's a problematic stuff. It is there. Nobody is happy. And here Jainism is saying you're getting this misery because of this delusion. So the solution is remove this delusion altogether. If there is no delusion, there is no misery. If there is no delusion, there is no misery. Now the question is, to remove delusion, what do we need to do? To remove delusion, they say you need not to have any desire. Now see why these delusions get created in our mind. Because of our desire to do something, to get something, to become something, whatever it is. When you say that, I feel like I'm reincarnation of a king. Maybe you want to do something, you have desires of becoming king or getting some power, because of which you have these delusions in your mind. So Jainism is saying, if you don't want misery, then remove delusion. And if you don't want delusion, then remove this greed or desire. Or they even say that you can remove desire by removing the greed that you have. So remove that greed part, desire part. Now, how this greed or desire part will go? For that, you have to remove the attachment. The attachment that you have with anything. If you remove that attachment completely, then in you there won't be any desire, there won't be any greed as such. So there won't be any delusion and there won't be any misery. You will be very happy. If you remove attachments from life, you will be very happy. Now people might get confused with attachment and love many a times. So there is a lot of difference. In love, you start giving freedom to others. In attachment, you try to just control them. For example, we say this thing, if you are attached with someone, you become possessive about that person. But if you love that person, you become very selfless. You do what you want to. There is a lot of freedom in love, and there are a lot of restrictions, obligations, and all these things in attachment. In attachment, we call your mind. In love, you say you can grow. You can grow. You have complete freedom. Here you have fear of losing that person. Here you have freedom to act. Freedom to act. When you love someone, you act in the interest of that person. You try to do something for that person. You don't try to just stop this person, make this person live in your life. So overall, attachment and love are very different. Love will always bring peace in life, bring happiness in life. Whereas this attachment is going to cause suffering. Attachment is going to cause suffering. So attachment is that root cause which Jainism is trying to deal with. Okay, so they are completely saying your life has become mess up because of these attachments. So remove that attachment first. Now it clearly says that what you need is a good soul. A good soul. Here specifically they say that if you go back to your soul has got some good things. If you bring that good thing, then this attachment will go away. This soul will bring love and not attachment. Because you're not giving importance to soul, you're giving importance to the karmic things or to this body or bodily things. You give importance to other things, not the soul. That's the reason they are saying focus on the soul part. And they say your soul has got everything in perfect. Let's say even you need knowledge, you want to get knowledge. They say go back to soul. Soul will give you the real knowledge. You don't get knowledge from outside or external sources. So Jainism says soul has perfect perception, perfect knowledge, perfect power, perfect bliss. Right? And through this you can get what you really want. So perfect perception, when we say, this Anant Darshan or perfect perception. So perception means the way we interpret, we look at the world. It's not reality, we interpret the world. So we see the reality. Normally we see the reality with some kind of bias. We interpret with bias, with some kind of illusion. But perfect perception will be one where you see without any illusion. You see the things as they are. That's the perfect perception you develop. Then perfect knowledge, Anant Gyan, complete objective understanding of life, of world, etc. Then Anant Virya, perfect power. You get unlimited spiritual power, spiritual strength. And Anant Sukh or perfect bliss, complete inner peace. So they suggest this overall idea that focus on working on your soul rather than these useless things. Now the same idea is used by Gandhiji, who says that develop your soul. Now here when they mean by soul, they are asking you to develop a good character. They're asking you to develop a good character because that is your soul. Okay. So just think about this dimension. And this Jainism also talks about one theory called as theory of Anekantvad. This Anekantvad is something that you're going to use in your answers to justify your point. Whenever you're asked to take any one side out of two, don't take one side, rather give importance to both. In ethics, we usually do not go to the extremities, right? We live in the spectrum. Rather, we don't even go for dichotomy approach. We go for continuum approach that we have discussed already. Anekantvad says that there are many sides. There cannot be absolutism. So this is one very good example, which you can even write in essays if required. That let's say there are 4 or 5 blind people. Okay, and there is an elephant in front of them. Now all of them are blind, so everyone is now explaining what is in front of them. So someone touched the elephant, and when they touched the let's say the trunk part. This person said this elephant is something which has, or whatever they are describing, it is having a very long kind of, very soft kind of body. It's different. You ask the other person, that person let's say touched the legs, so he's saying it's not at all soft as such, it's very strong. Other person touched the hair, and this person is saying this is neither soft nor hard, this is very different altogether. So the point is, everyone looks at the world differently, right? Differently, and everyone is coming with truth. Is everyone lying over here? Is anyone wrong over here? Nobody is wrong. Everyone is coming up with truth. Rather, everyone has got some element of truth. Some element of truth. That's the idea of Anekantvad. Anekantvad will say you cannot know the complete absolute truth, but whatever you are saying, that is one element of truth. Okay, that is non-absolutism, doctrine of many-sidedness. There are many sides to the reality, to the truth. So don't claim that your side is the right side. Maybe there are different sides. Okay, what you can say is There is one truth, but there are many sides. I had talked to you about that. Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. It's the same line which we said over there. Similar to that, not exactly the same. Many sides, that means there will be multiple kinds of views about the reality. And you should take a balanced decision for ethical governance. You take all the sides and consider all sides as element of the complete truth. Okay? That's how you'll utilize it. Now the next is Buddhism. Buddhism also you people study very well for history and art and culture. Now what we need to focus on is this part about the universal principles of Buddhism. When we say Buddha, Buddha means a person who is enlightened, who is awakened, right? Now 3 principles are suggested by Buddha, 3 universal principles. First thing he says that there is impermanence in this world. Impermanence. Nothing is permanent in this world. It's a very deep thing to understand. He says nothing is permanent. Your experience, your emotions, people in your life, the material things that you're getting, your success, nothing is permanent. Everything is impermanent in this world. So what he's trying to say, because everything is impermanent, don't bring any attachment with anything. Attachment is a problematic stuff. Don't have any kind of attachment with any human being, anything, any material thing, because anything will go away from your life at any point of time. Nothing is there with you permanently. So please remove this attachment part. Same thing even Jainism was saying, remove attachment. He is also saying. He says, life is full of suffering, full of dissatisfaction, full of pain, full of anxiety. And why life is full of such all these bad things? The root cause, he says, is your desire and your attachment. Understand this part, please. Understand this part. First of all, everything is permanent, everything is impermanent, nothing is permanent. So please don't attach. Please don't attach with anything. Second, he's saying your life has become so messed up because of your desires and your attachments. So this is also the reason why you should not have any desire or any attachment. And third thing he says, that there is no self as such. There is no permanent self. You say that I did this, I want this. When you say I, when you're talking about this I, or when you're talking about this me, who is this me? Here Buddha gives one very good example. Let's say you talk about river. River is made up of small drops of water. And all these drops of water, they are moving. That forms the entire river. But you see, the drops are changing their size, their volume, everything continuously. They are changing. So can you call one drop as the real river altogether? No, you can't call it. So similarly, when you talk about your thoughts, your emotions, your experience, when we say my emotions, my thoughts, are they really yours? Think about it. Are they just drops of the entire river? Together, when we bring in everything together, your all thoughts, emotions, experiences, everything, then that forms the entire you. So don't consider yourself as something independent as such. You're not independent. When you say I did this, I is not an independent stuff as such. There's no independent and permanent stuff as such. It's a build-up thing. It's a built-up thing. So very deep concept which Buddha is trying to give. Now out of these 3, although I've explained this, it's not that important. The most important thing is this impermanence and suffering part, which will be very important for you to understand. Now how you are going to utilize this part? Suffering. There is suffering. So even success doesn't give permanent happiness. You can use such line. For non-self, you may say, sir, officers must not attach any ego. Right? They have ego. Everyone has got ego. They should not, because there is impermanence in life. So you should not have even attachment with your job profile that I'm an IAS officer. How can someone say this? Today you are an IAS officer. After some time, even you will have to retire. So don't attach yourself with it. That's the reason many officers, even after, as soon as they get retired, they're not able to live a basic happy life. That becomes difficult for them. The reason is their attachment. Okay? And Buddha suggests the solution, because so many problems are there in your life. The solution, just like in Jainism, here some 8 paths have been given, that you should have right intention in life. Whatever you speak, that should be the right thing to speak. You should speak the right thing. Right speech should be there. Right action, right livelihood, right effort, right concentration, mindfulness, right view. So this all, if you do, then you will have a very good life. Simple. All those miseries will be gone from your life. Overall, Buddha is also trying to say the same thing which Socrates has told you, if you remember. That if you want a happy life, you have to get on the right path, the right thing. So he is also giving the same thing, more or less. They all are talking about the same thing. That to become happy, you have to be on the right thing. That you have to be ethical. If you are ethical, then you are happy. Then all the problems of your life will be gone. Otherwise, you will always have problems, always have miseries. Okay? Getting the point. Very good point, which can be utilized in answers. Then, last thinker for today, that is our Gandhiji. Okay? Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhiji is an important thinker. Yes, very important thinker. Anyway, you people read about Gandhiji in your modern history in detail anyway. We'll look at the philosophical dimensions only. Now, one thing Gandhiji talked about, that was the idea of ahimsa or non-violence. Now, how Gandhiji looks at it? First of all, he says that when you talk about violence or hinsa, he says violence belongs to the world of animals. And why animals go for violence? Because their soul is not completely developed. Whereas human beings, if you look at human beings, our soul is very much developed enough. So because our soul is developed, we can understand that violence is a wrong thing. We understand. Animals are not able to understand that part. Their soul is not so developed. Our soul is developed, so we should not go for this hinsa or violence as such. And this non-violence forms his basis for his ends and means theory. So when it comes to means and ends, right, we talked about this part earlier too, that when it comes to means and ends, here Gandhiji talk about the means. Gandhiji says, if you want good results, your means should be good. Rather, he says your means should be pure. If your end, the end result that you want is God or godly or truth, you want something really good, then your means should be godly or simply, he says, pure. That means if your means are pure, your ends will also be good or godly or good thing. Otherwise, they won't be. Otherwise, they won't be. That's the core thing that he is trying to say. Now, when he talks about this idea of non-violence, when he talks about this ends and means part, what he's trying to do is, he's trying to reflect on the love, sacrifice and the brotherhood part. It's not like being non-violent, that means I am just compromising, I'll not be violent with you, I have to control. No, it's not a negative concept altogether. He's saying it's a very positive concept. You love this person. You love this person, that's why you are non-violent. It's not like you are just controlling your emotions and all. No, you love this person. There's a brotherhood, the feeling of brotherhood. That's why you are not going violent on this person. That's the idea. So it's a very broad kind of thing wherein he's talking about the feeling of love and fraternity towards everyone, not just human beings, but for animals, for the environment, for everyone. That's why Gandhiji talks about the being non-violent towards animals also, towards environment also. He talks about conserving environment. So this is the core idea, that what is the end result is in your mind, something good, right? You want a prosperous society. How is it possible? If you want a prosperous society, you have to act in a manner which goes for prosperity, something good. So this is the thing. Then Gandhiji talks about satyagraha. Now everyone knows about satyagraha. Satya agraha. Satya means truth. Agraha means insisting. Satyagraha means insisting for the truth or insistence on truth. You are insisting. You are becoming stable and saying that I am with the truth no matter what. And I told you this relationship, that if truth versus any false thing, any evil thing is there. There is good thing which is the real truth, and there are so many bad things against it. Still, eventually, let the fight go on. Eventually, the good or the truth is going to win. This is the core idea of satyagraha also. That anyway, at the end, the truth is going to win. You see, someone is lying, let's say, someone is lying to his family members, and nobody is catching him right now. But someday he will be caught. Someday, if the investigation goes on, if everything is checked, you do whatever, finally we will come to know that he's wrong. So good is going to win anyway. That's why Gandhiji is suggesting that do this satyagraha. Satyagrahis are bound to win because you are on the right side. No matter how long the struggle goes, you will anyway win because you are on the right side, and right side will come into picture at any cost at the end. That is one idea. Now there is something called passive resistance, and you can differentiate it with satyagraha, although this is not very important for you people. I've just mentioned it over here, how you can look at passive resistance as a teleological approach, and how ahimsa is not teleological, rather it's a deontological approach. So some people call that, many people go for passive resistance with any government because they know that government has got so much power. Government has a lot of power, so we don't have that enough power, so it's better to do passive resistance. But when Gandhiji suggests passive resistance in the form of satyagraha, he's not looking at the end result. He's looking at the deontology, that faith in the non-violence, that you are right, you will anyway win. That's the core idea. And here, when you go for this, even if the other side is evil or wrong, you will not hate this side. You will not hate this person. You will hate the act he is doing. The evil thing that he is doing, you will hate that. You will not hate the person. So, in this fight, otherwise what happens when you're fighting with someone, it gets into an ego clash. It gets into an ego clash. You start hating this person. But when you know that he's doing wrong, I am doing right, I am with the truth, so you will fight. And whether you win or not, or the struggle is going on, you will not hate this person. He might hate. You will not hate this person. Because you know that I am with the right thing, he is with the wrong thing, he is ignorant. After some time, he will know this thing. So you will not hate the person. You will hate the evil. So he is against evil, not the evil doer. He is not against the person, or he was not against Britishers. Gandhiji was not against Britishers. Gandhiji was against what Britishers were doing, that action, he was against those actions. Okay. Then his idea of Sarvodaya, this you can utilize in the answers. Sarvodaya is considered to be Gandhiji's idea of socialism. So he read a book called Unto This Last, written by John Ruskin. So in his book, John Ruskin was talking about the last person, and that actually molded Gandhiji's ideas too. So even Gandhiji suggests this thing, that if you are in a dilemma, think about the last person. Think about the last person. If you are in a dilemma of a policy, whether we should go ahead with policy or not, whether I should take this action or not, think about one thing. By this decision, what will happen with the poorest of the poor, that last person, that Antya person? We talk about that Antyodaya theory. Because why we talk about Antyodaya theory? Because we are thinking about that last person, right? So first thing, he got to know about this part, and after this, he started talking. First of all, he talked about Antyodaya, that those who are at this last their uday is important, or their upliftment, their empowerment is important. And he talked about Antodaya through Sarvodaya. So everyone's upliftment. But here one thing is important. Gandhi's idea of socialism is very different from that of Marx. Karl Marx, when he talked about socialism, he talks about absolute income inequality. He wants that everyone should have same amount of money with them, same amount of stuff with them, or what we call as the means of production should be equal. So Karl Marx wanted everyone should be absolutely equal. Whereas what Gandhiji wants, he's not interested in making everyone's income same and everything same. Gandhiji is interested in equalizing the dignity. He says, if you're a barber, or if you're a lawyer, or if you're a doctor, or you are a peon, everyone has equal dignity. Everyone has equal dignity. No matter how much you earn, no matter how much you earn in the society, everyone will have equal amount of dignity. Everyone will get the equal amount of respect. It's not like someone is getting less respect, someone is getting more respect. No. So Gandhiji's idea of socialism focuses on this dignity part, whereas Karl Marx focuses on this income part, or this means of production part. Okay. And one more thing Gandhiji says, that we should focus on this bread labor. Everyone should do some kind of labor activity, this physical activity, physical work, just the way people from the lower class are doing, or some people who are very poorest of the poor, the kind of activities they are made to do. Everyone should do that, especially when you are going for any manual work. Everyone should do that. He suggests that to build your value system, to also build your understanding of dignity better. And Gandhiji talks about idea of trusteeship. Trusteeship in this, what he is trying to do is, he says that, see, we cannot make everyone's income equal, but there are some people who are very rich and there are people who are very poor. He's saying these rich people should understand. He's trying to make an appeal to the conscience, to the mind of the rich people, saying that you people should understand that you people are trustees. You people are trustees, and you should behave like trustees and not like an owner. You're not owner, you're trustees. Okay, so these trustees have to distribute their income. They should keep what is needed to them. So there's a saying that he talks about the need part and the greed part. So Gandhiji very clearly says these capitalists whom we are calling trustees, they should keep the amount of money, the amount of wealth, whatever they need, as per their need. For their need, whatever is needed, keep that much. Remaining, use that amount for the welfare of the society. But if you are greedy and not needy, being needy is different. Your needs are very basic, very less. But when you become greedy, you start accumulating wealth. The problem with capitalism, the core problem with capitalism lies in this greedy behavior of people. People develop greed. When they are greedy, they keep on accumulating stuffs. So Gandhiji is saying, you people are trustees. Don't accumulate wealth like this. Behave like wealth. Behave like this trustee. And whatever surplus, extra amount that you have, extra wealth you have, redistribute it, transfer it in the poor people or the other people. That is your responsibility, is what Gandhiji is trying to say. Okay. Then the last part, the rights versus duties and the ethical leadership. This is very important content. Okay, you will be directly utilizing this part in your answers. So please focus on this part. Rights versus duties. There's a big conflict between rights and duties. What should be given more importance? My rights are important, but duties are also important. If you look at capitalism, or liberalism, they will give importance to rights, right? And if you look at socialism, they'll give importance to the duty part, right? So there is a conflict between these two. Here, Gandhiji is trying to bring some middle path wherein we can balance both of these things. So what he says, do not sacrifice individual for the society, and do not sacrifice society for the individual. Bring in some balance. So he suggests this idea from Bhagavad Gita, which talks about Nishkam Karma. He says that everyone should have their rights. See, rights should be there, but everyone should perform their rights with a duty or moral obligation. Everyone should perform it. So you perform your duty. He shows one relation wherein if you perform your duty, automatically you will get the rights. Automatically, entire society will automatically get all these rights. You perform your duty. You respect the freedom of speech of others. Others will also respect the freedom of speech of yours. So with duty, automatically you got this right of freedom of speech and expression. Okay. So he's trying to balance these things out. Fine. Last thing, most important thing about Gandhiji, talks about ethical leadership. Even the Gandhiji himself is a good example of ethical leadership. So if you remember, we talked about this relationship between politics and ethics, right? When we studied Machiavelli, there we said that Machiavelli is very clear. Politics and ethics cannot go hand in hand. They cannot go together. But there are thinkers who claim that politics and ethics, they will go together. You talk about Plato, you talk about Aristotle, Socrates, you talk about Gandhiji. These are the thinkers who support the idea of bringing politics and ethics together. Rather, they say, because anyway, you look at the core objective of politics is to sustain this society, continue this society, is the same objective which ethics has. To have an order in the society, to continue this society, sustain this society, and reach to the final objective of every individual and the entire society. So both have the same objective. So Gandhiji talks about the ethical leadership. A leader should be ethical. Now here you see, you can make such good diagrams in the answers. There will be questions on this line. There were questions earlier asked on this line of the topic. So when politics and ethics are together, what happens? If everyone is ethical, or if people are ethical and they are into politics, there will be good governance, there will be integrity, social justice, democratic stability, inclusive policies. This is now you can understand. If politicians seem to be good people, they'll make good laws, they'll do good governance. They'll try to sort out the problems, they'll try to bring inclusiveness in the society. But if they do not have ethics at all, what they will do? They will not focus on people, they'll not focus on good governance, rather they'll focus on their corruption, how much money I can earn, they'll focus on exploitation, they'll become authoritarian, because with that authoritarianism and controlling power, they can do more corruption. All these are linked. So this is how we see the difference. When there is no ethics in politics, how things will go wrong. When there is ethics in politics, how things will go in the right direction. Get it? This is what we actually want. This is the side you are supposed to take, and this is the side Gandhiji had even shown us. Gandhiji tried to live a life of a leader who acts bit ethically, although it is debatable to some extent, but more or less when you compare him with other politicians, it seems he was doing good. Or you talk about Gokhale. Gokhale was also a very good example. Ranade also was a very good example. Such examples can be quoted. Apart from that, Abraham Lincoln, anyway, you know the name. He's a very good example of this ethical leadership. You can bring his example also while you are mentioning about leadership or ethical leadership as such. Now, Abraham Lincoln talked about one thing. He talked about importance of power to understand the character of a person. Okay, this line is very important, and in the answers it will be utilized a lot. See, whether you are an ethical person or not. See, this will come into picture only for leaders, because we don't have power. Leaders have power. Now see, whether you are a good person or a bad person, how will we know? We are taking ethics test. Still, we don't know, because after some time we get to know that some people are found to be getting into corrupt activities. That means ethics paper is not able to check your character completely. Or we go for many other tests. We trust someone. We say that I have been with this person since last 20 years. He's a very ethical person. Who knows? Maybe he's lying. Maybe he's a hypocrite. He's lying to you since last 20 years and you assume that he's a very ethical person. How to know you are ethical or not? Abraham Lincoln says the best test of a man's character is to give him power. You give a person power and just wait and see. Till the time a person is not having any power with him, he might act ethically because he doesn't have power. When he gets power, nobody is going to question him now. Nobody can question him, nobody can punish him. The moment he knows that nobody can question or punish him, that is the situation of becoming powerful. Now he will show you his real character. He will show his real character. So if you want to see the real character of someone, give him power. So he says, nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. Okay, you want to check someone's character, check it through giving him power. There is no other test. You can write this down in the answers very well. Okay. And this part, this is also very good. Public servants, when they are in the position of power, they have their power. Now, either if they are having good character, if public servants who are in the position of power, if they have good character, they will use the power in the public interest. They will use the same power for doing something good. So this shows that your character is virtuous character, good character. And in case you do not have good character as such, then you will use the power in self-interest, your own interest. You'll do some corruption, you'll get into some social medias and all, show that I'm doing work and all these things you will do. This is because you have a bad character. So if you want to check a person's character, give him power. Remember this line. Okay? And in the ethical leadership, mention Lincoln's example, mention Gandhi's example, Nelson Mandela's example, any other example, even from ancient, medieval, modern, wherever you get good examples. We talk about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, that's a good example for ethical leadership. Anything you can bring in like this. Okay? So that's all. That's all from Gandhiji. This is one last thing about Gandhiji. 7 sins. Gandhiji talks about 7 sins. Use this in the answers wherever possible, in intro, body, conclusion, wherever. He says, wealth without work, it's a sin. It's a wrong thing. When he is saying sin, it means it's an unethical thing to do. Making money, making wealth without doing any work, that's unethical. Getting pleasure without any conscience, that's wrong. Conscience I will discuss later on in the next chapter. Knowledge without character. You've got a lot of knowledge, but your character is not good. You're a bad character. You're a worse person. Clever devil. Commerce without morality. Not good. Science without humanity. Not at all good. Worship without sacrifice. Not good. And politics without principles. This is a very good line to use in the answers. Politics without principles, or politics without ethics. Principles, when you say it, means ethics. It's a sin. It's a wrong thing. If you're into politics, you must be ethical. You must be ethical. Okay? Look at this previous year question asked in the year 2013. It's often said that politics and ethics do not go together. What is your opinion on this? Justify your answer with illustrations. So first of all, they have given the statement. It's a very negative statement. Should you agree or should you not agree? What do you think? Are you going to agree or not? Obviously, you're not going to agree, but you will talk about this conventional opinion too. Why it is there? You show this side. While writing this answer, now you have the content, right? We have discussed this part. Politics and ethics do not go together. So this is from Machiavelli. You talk about Machiavelli, why this thought exists, give some examples, show some examples that yes, it seems that it doesn't go together because politics involves the role of power. And when people seek power, they focus on power rather than being ethical. Or in the name of national interest, they have to do some wrong things, some wrong actions. So it seems politics and ethics cannot, because national interest could go against the interest of humanity or against the interest of ethics, you can say. So you can show why it is often thought of that way. But then you show the other side, that they are meant to be together. Talk about Gandhiji, talk about Socrates, give some examples. And because they have asked about illustrations, so they expect examples. So, okay, just a second. So I might start with Machiavelli. In the words of Machiavelli, politics have no relation to morals. So this is the general perception that I will show, and I'll give some examples. For example, this Chinese incident, Tiananmen Square incident, massacre, which was done by Chinese government. This shows lack of ethics. Or murder of this journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, from Saudi Arabia. That's also a good example to mention. Cambridge Analytica case again can be mentioned here if you want, right? But after that, you come to the point, but no, this is not supposed to be there. There are great personalities like Socrates, Ranade, Gandhi, etc., who talk about both going together. Or you can talk about the real intent of this ethics and this politics. Then make a good diagram, bring some examples again. For example, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, when he could not pass this Hindu Code bill, he resigned from his position as a law minister. That shows role of ethics. Or you talk about Lal Bahadur Shastri. He resigned from the post of railway minister since he thought he himself was responsible for train accident that happened during his tenure. This shows that you're showing your ethics in politics. You can give example of Kalam also. There are many incidents in his life when he was president. He's taken some actions. Show role of ethics. So give such good examples from your content only, from the GS that you have studied. Put those same examples. Make such a good diagram if you can make, and finally conclude that what we need. Now, already you have made the answer. You can give this additional touch that India or any other country, not just India, the world, what the world needs is a good political culture. We need good political culture which upholds ethical principles, ethical values, and the goal should be to create a just, equitable, and morally upright society. Right, in this manner. Okay. So that's how you can write good answers. This one we already did, so no need to discuss again. So that's all. That's all for today's lecture. Quite lengthy, but we completed the moral thinkers and philosophers part. So in the next lecture, we'll come up with the next theme. Okay. If you have any doubts, please ask, or else we'll wrap up. Okay, so we will end this session. Thank you so much.